Morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm Mike Graham and this, of course, is the Mike Graham Show, as you can see from the sign behind me. I've done it again. I managed to get it right. It's 7 o'clock. We've absolutely hit the button right on time. Charlotte's here. You're all here. There's those of you watching already, even before we do anything at all. The international clock is kicking off well. Kelvin McKenzie makes his return today. He's back from foreign parts. We'll be asking him about that. Arsenal have won the league, which is a slightly depressing thought, isn't it? Because not because anybody hates Arsenal for any particular reason, but we hate Arsenal because Keir Starmer is an Arsenal fan, and he actually put a tweet out yesterday about it as well, which made me even more sort of irritable, it has to be said, which we'll show you later on. Let me just see if I can find it. I should have had it ready. But basically, Keir Starmer stayed away, as we told him to, and they regained their sort of good fortune because he wasn't going. There we go. 22 long years for the Arsenal, but finally we are back where we belong, champions. I mean, I detest him so much that it just makes me feel sick that his football team has won. There's the tweet there. We've got a poll today as well, which is based on Arsenal winning the league. I don't know if you've had a chance to put it together, have you? Should we have a look? The poll is this. Oh, well, hang on, that's not the right one. That's yesterday's poll. This one is the best word with arse in it. Is it Arsenal? Is it pass? Is it TARS? Or is it Keir Starmer? See what we did there? Funnily enough, Keir Starmer's winning, obviously.
What's TARS?
TARS is apparently an old-fashioned medieval term for penis. So you get an education on this show. Pass, of course, you will know, is a term for, doing something with the English language, which is kind of passing a paragraph or passing a piece of prose and actually deciding what to do with it. We'll be talking about all of that later. But TARS is a good word. Pass is a good word. Arsenal's a good word. But Keir Starmer, I think, is our favourite at the moment. Mike, your hair is going to cover the clock soon. Lean to the right. Listen. I'm not bothered about the way my hair looks, right? I quite like the way it looks. For some reason, the camera focuses on the wrong side of my head. I can't explain it, right? When I look in the mirror, it looks fine. As soon as I come on here, it looks like it's growing from one side to the other. I don't know why that is. Like, this side looks flatter than this side, right? And I don't know why. I can't explain it. I think it's because my head's not a normal shape. I think it's because my head's actually a bit wonky. And one side grows the hair faster than the other. When I was at Talk, and I used to have these constant, makeup artists who would deal with my hair all the time, they used to actually cut it in such a way that one side was longer than the other, because they would sweep it like one way, right? We don't do that here. So I quite like the way it looks. And I'm sorry if it upsets anybody. I had a guy yesterday going, get your hair cut. Well, I could get my hair cut, but the more I get told to do something, as you know, the less likely I am to do it. So if I were you, I would not keep telling me to cut my hair. We're going to talk to Stephen Barrett in a minute, who is, of course, our favourite barrister. Nobody tells him to cut his hair. His hair's down to his waist, practically. And it looks very good on him, to be honest. So, I mean, if I was him and somebody said, cut your hair, I'd say, bugger off, which is what I'm going to say to you now. We will go through the papers this morning. Front page is full of all sorts of different stories. Rachel Reeves, Richard III, obviously, has come up with a brand new plan. She's decided that she wants to tell supermarkets now to stop putting their prices up. She's decided that it would be a really, really good idea if supermarkets didn't charge so much for what they sell. All right? So she's now said what you should do is disregard all of the other information that we gave you before. So, for example, the packaging of things like avocados. We used to tell you not to package them. We used to tell you to make sure that the fruit and the vegetables can be bought loose, right? Because that's the way to go, because that saves the planet. Forget about all that. You can package the stuff up any way you like now, but what we'd like you to do is freeze the prices of milk, eggs, and bread, right? This is where we are now. We've now got a government which is so craven and so hopeless that they're begging supermarkets not to put the prices up of things which are generally run by the free market, okay? Apparently the Treasury is in discussions with supermarkets about incentivising them to act in exchange for a lifting of regulations on packaging and healthy food. So all of that bullshit about healthy food and all of that bullshit about packaging apparently didn't make any difference. It didn't matter. So it shows you that all of the things that we've been told, all of the advice that we've been given by the Ministry of Health, all of the advice that we've been given by various secretaries of state for health about how we should eat more healthily, about how we shouldn't buy things that are packaged in plastic, that we should actually, eat more healthy food and less cereal and less sugar. None of that matters now because we're in a financial crisis. And Rachel Reeves would rather that you just were able to buy eggs, bread and milk cheaper. Imagine living with Rachel Reeves. Is that all she eats? Eggs, milk and bread? So you can make French toast. You could probably make scrambled eggs. You can maybe toast the bread if you've got enough money to actually pay for the electricity bill that you're going to get on behalf of doing it. What difference does it make? And why are the government sticking their noses into the supermarket business, which is, let's face it, a pretty well-run business? The people that run supermarkets make a lot of money. They know what they're doing, right? They give you the buy one, get one free option on 58,000 cans of tuna. They tell you that, if you buy one, you get one free. 3 for 4, 4 for 3, 5 for 4. It's all of that. Now they say that they want the supermarkets to listen to government advisors. Really? I don't think so. More bad news, though, for those of you watching the Keir Starmer psychodrama. Front page of the Times as well. Stand firm, Starmer may still be in Downing Street in the new year. This is because Andy Burnham's making such a dog's arse of trying to run for Parliament. And on the front page of the Daily Mail, Burnham said that men who identify as women should be able to use female toilets. And there he is. International Rescue, Thunderbirds are go. That's an amazing likeness, isn't it? Which one is that? Is that Virgil? Is it Virgil?
I've no idea.
You're not an expert. Why have we got a picture of Anna McGovern going to the Toby Carvery for no apparent reason? It's fine. We love Anna. Let's just do pictures of Anna McGovern going to the Toby Carvery. Funnily enough, one of her friends, Jess Gill, who's been on this show before, is having a baby. And I witnessed an exchange between them where people were saying congratulations to Jess, well done, and also we'll say congratulations. And and Anna sent her a message saying, can't wait to take him to the Toby Carvery. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. So Telegraph's also got the same story. Rachel Reeves tells shops to cap food prices. The front page of The Sun, they've got 5p fuel tax hike pulled. We knew about that. And also, the freezing of prices in supermarkets, to me, just smacks of North Korean socialism, You will eat the eggs that we tell you to eat. You will not eat the brown eggs. You will only eat the white eggs. And they will not be free range. You will only eat the eggs that we tell you to eat, and you will only be able to pay one price for them, and you will not be able to charge any more money for them than the price that we set. What do we do? Are we living in Nazi Germany? Let's talk to Stephen Barrett, our favourite barrister, and get some sense out of it. Well, Stephen, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, Mike.
You've heard of the phrase, let them eat cake. Apparently Rachel Reeves now says, let them eat bread, eggs and milk, but only if you charge them the money that we say you should charge them. What the hell are they thinking about?
So we are in a socialist country, okay?
Yeah.
We just need to admit this and then ideally fix it. That's my preferred suggestion. The alternate choice is to simply watch it collapse, which it will do. We're now at we need to freeze food prices level of inflation. This is all coming about because we print money.
Yes.
And basically what happened, Mike, is that there is an immutable law of economics that if you print money, you cause inflation. And Gordon Brown and some others thought that they would, and including, just to be fair on the party basis, including George Osborne, thought that they were terribly clever, that they could carry on printing money because they could hide it in house prices. And what happened is they printed money and house prices went up. And everybody was actually very happy that the house price was going up. So they ignored the fact that printing money was causing inflation. House prices have now absolutely peaked. We can't hide the printed money. Printing money is like turning on a tap. We can't hide the water in house prices anymore. And so the water is just sloshing around, inflating everything. Yeah, and it's in butter prices, it's in bread prices, it's in meat prices. The price of steak. My child had a birthday recently and I was instructed to buy steak. And I went and I got 2 steaks. And by God, the price of a steak gone through the roof. That's because we're printing money, and printing money causes inflation. And it is that simple. The only way out of this is to turn that tap off and to structure ourselves properly as a country, that means we can't borrow the way we're borrowing. We borrowed something like 130 billion, 110 billion of which was simply to pay off the interest on our debts.
Yes.
I mean, that you cannot, everybody watching this knows that you cannot simply get a second credit card to pay off the first credit card and then think things are going to end well. They're not. You have to cut back spending at some point, and at some point a future government is going to have to get to grips with this nation. But this government has no intention of doing so at all. It's completely delusional. It's deranged. It's basically, I mean, they may as well just keep drinking. I mean, they'd be more entertaining if they would just started drinking at 8 a.m. and we watched them fall about. I mean, at least they'd be some sort of vague public entertainment value there.
Yes.
If Andy Burnham gets in, he's promising to spend even more money, Mike. So we'll turn the taps on even more. And there'll be even more water splashing around. And then we won't be able to afford bacon. We won't be able to afford cereal.
Yeah, the thing I love about Andy Burnham is that even before he has entered the leadership race, which of course isn't actually happening, even though all sorts of people are entering it, and they're entering a race that doesn't currently exist. He's already done 2 U-turns in as many days. You know, first he said he wanted to nationalise everything and do away with fiscal rules. He's now said, actually, no, I didn't really mean that. I actually just was kind of, spitballing. I was just coming up with a few ideas, He's basically, his argument for running the country is that he did very well by capping bus fares in Manchester, which cost 100 million quid to the taxpayers of Manchester. And he thinks that that's a model for the rest of the country. Let's just nationalise everything and it doesn't matter how much money it costs. Then the second one, of course, was we need to rejoin the European Union. Oh, no, I didn't really mean that. When I said we should rejoin the European Union in my lifetime, I didn't mean like straight away, obviously, because that would impinge on my ability to win a by-election in a seat where lots of people voted to leave the European Union. These people are a joke. They are a complete joke. If your child had friends like this, you would discourage them from hanging around with them. You'd go, these are not good people. They're liars. They're cheats. They will say anything to inveigle their way into your environment. Stay away from them. They're dangerous.
Yes, they're frauds. They're complete frauds and charlatans. Yeah. That's what they are. And it was leaked the composition of a future cabinet by Andy Burnham would be, and everybody should take great comfort that it will be almost exactly the same as Keir Starmer, except everybody except Mike. All the people forced to resign for scandals would suddenly become clean again, and they would be back in the cabinet. Apparently, their sins will be forgiven if Saint Andy is anointed in Makerfield. I mean, it's just unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. The sheer chutzpah, the sheer gall of just doing it this way, and announcing that he was humbled to be selected. It's like, you're not humbled to be selected. The entire thing's a hoodwink.
Yeah, it's a complete and utter setup. Nobody has been selected. He has been fingered, if you'll pardon the phrase, and they've said, you are the next anointed one. Therefore, we will bring you into the fold. I mean, all this bullshit, again, I'm sorry to keep using the word, about, democracy is complete and utter codswallop. He has been made to completely refute democracy. A man was elected in 2024 called Josh Simons, who's another utter disgrace of a man who spent most of his time eavesdropping on journalists and trying to discredit journalists with fake stories about their private lives in order to make sure that the things that they wrote about the Labour government weren't believed, right? And this guy had the balls to go on a television show last Sunday and talk about the ethics and the business of politics. And you go, sorry, mate, you are a discredited disgrace. You shouldn't even be sitting in the same room as anybody with a brain. So Andy Burnham has now completely usurped democracy in order for his own ambition. And that is the fact, right? And it's got nothing to do with him wanting to save the people of Makersfield, because he doesn't need to save them. They've already got a parliamentarian, they've already got an MP who's now stepping aside in order to massage Andy Burnham's ego. That's it.
Yeah, it's just Andy Burnham's ego.
Yeah.
I like to say, huge ego, tiny man.
Yeah.
But, this is...
Well, we've seen him in very short shorts, and I think tiny man is probably the right description.
Well, I don't think any of us enjoyed that, Mike. So I think
we really didn't. I'd rather not. Yeah, sorry.
Please don't put that on the screen. I have a weak stomach in the mornings. But this is all about his ego, and the idea that this is all our country is is really coming to a fore. They don't care about us. They don't care about running the place well. They just care about getting these fake titles. I honestly, I don't know why, Mike. I don't know why somebody like Keir Starmer is desperate to be Prime Minister, as though that means anything when we all hold him in absolute contempt. I'd much rather not be Prime Minister if that means that the general public don't hold me in complete and utter contempt. I'd rather, be able to walk into Spoons and not be booed. As I imagine, if he walks into any Spoons, he's going to get booed because he's hated. And why do they care about these pathetic titles that don't mean anything when they should care about our country that does mean something?
Yes. But the trouble is that they're so enveloped in their own sort of, importance or self-importance, you might say, that we keep seeing these visions of Keir Starmer and of Andy Burnham sort of interacting with people in such a way that, as you know, to be fake. Yesterday we had Andy Burnham rubbing the nose of a golden retriever, which happened to pass by as he was walking down the street. As in the same way that, the Sky camera crew happened to find him running down the street shortly before he got into his car and drove home, and it's all just performative nonsense. And they think we're stupid. It's like, how stupid do you think we are? Next, it'll be kissing babies. It'll be hugging a pair of lesbians. I mean, who knows? But, what it won't be is real.
Yeah, there is no reality. And if I'm harsh to us, Mike, we played a part in all of this because, look, let's face it, they think that we're thick. We're not thick. But let's face the honesty, they're not very clever. And for years and years and years with politics, most of us, and I probably include myself in this because I stayed neutral on the Brexit referendum because I can't actually remember whether or not I voted. A lot of us just sort of assumed everything was okay. So we carried on with our own personal lives and our family lives and our work and trying to, focusing on that and the next holiday and getting everything done. And life is difficult. And so we focused on that and we sort of let Blair just prattle away. And we knew that he was absolutely shit. But, it didn't really matter because everything was fine. And anyway, he smiled for the cameras and he seemed to be happy, and he, it was just fine. And then we had Gordon Brown and everybody was like, no, this is wrong. But then the sort of system corrected itself and we were back to a smiling, seemingly happy, vague, vacuous non-entity of a man just sort of waving for the cameras. So we all once again got back on with our lives. And the simple fact is that after sort of 30 years of this, 30 years of us all not paying attention to politics, everything's fallen apart. All the politicians are vacuous non-entities who just wave at the camera and kiss babies and traumatize poor innocent golden retrievers, or traumatize the nation with their short shorts. And we have to admit that that's partly our fault. We didn't pay attention to politics. Now we have to wake up. We have to pay attention to politics again. The first test is going to be Makerfield. The people of Makerfield have to pay attention and wake up and vote. And the only result I really want to see is a vast increase in turnout at that by-election. That's what I'd love to see. That's when our country is starting to heal. When we start to see an improvement in turnout at elections, that's when actually we're not going to sink into the quagmire. Actually, we're not going to let Britain completely collapse. Actually, this place does matter. It is our home. It is our beautiful island. We do care about it, and we're going to do something. And that, if that doing something is going to vote, that is the first step. And I really hope, whatever else happens in Makerfield, I really hope there's an increase in turnout.
I think it's going to be. I mean, people, even the Westminster bubble, are starting to say things like this could be an incredibly important by-election, one of the most important in our kind of lifetime. And I think it will be, because at the end of the day, it may determine what happens to that ghastly, awful, terrible Prime Minister sitting in Downing Street. I mean, the Times this morning, Stephen, I'm sorry to tell you, says that stand firm Starmer. They're so loyal to Starmer in the Times, they can't quite believe what happened to them. They used to be known as the Thunderer as a newspaper. Now they're sort of like the Tit Whisperer newspaper. So Keir Starmer could remain in Downing Street until early next year, his allies have said. Well, you can find anybody to say anything if you want, but why do you put that on the front page as if it's real? Keir Starmer is a dead duck, no matter which way you cut it. If if Andy Burnham doesn't win the by-election and Reform wins it, which I very much hope happens, Starmer still can't rule the country because nobody has any faith in him. And instead we'll then get Wes Streeting and probably Ed Miliband ganging up against him and shoving him out the door.
I mean, just a man who can be beaten up by Ed Miliband is not a real man.
Not really, no.
Starmer could very well still be in Downing Street by January because he might well be hiding in the attic, but no one will care and no one gives two hoots what he says or thinks. The fact is, structurally, this country is not being run. It's in a bad way. They broke everything because just to make it very clear, the poisonous word your viewers need to know is independent.
Yes.
Once you make parts of governance, parts of our country independent from democracy and control and, you know, the government, everything starts to break because independent just means unaccountable. And we have huge swathes of the public sector which are completely unaccountable. So, of course, they are acting like complete loons right now. And they're not doing things in the best interests of the country. It's a bit like my railway company. It spends all its time tweeting about children's literacy, which is not, to my mind, the immediate concern of a railway company. And all its trains are late and cancelled and its barriers don't work and its stations are falling apart. But, you know, it's tweeting about children's literacy, so it feels it's doing something good. We've walked into or slept our way into a broken country, and we need to wake up now.
Yeah, absolutely right. Because if you saw, I don't know whether you did, my tweets yesterday about the Metropolitan Police, you know, who spent most of the weekend deciding that one march was hate-filled and another march wasn't, and they managed to get it wrong. You know, there's people over there calling for people to be shot in the neck. That's fine. There's people over here waving British flags. That's not fine. That's horrible. You know, we better go after those people who are waving the flags because they're obviously the bad people. But yesterday, right, incredibly, the Metropolitan Police, there was an incident in San Diego where a couple of, you know, unfortunately, you know, probably very misdirected youths decided to go and attack a mosque. They shot, I think, the security guard outside the mosque before shooting themselves, thereby creating 3 people. I don't know if the guy who was guarding the mosque was a Muslim, but yes, it was an attack on a mosque, but it was not out of the ordinary considering what's been going on in this country. The Metropolitan Police, in the eyes of Assistant Commissioner Matt Twist, put out a tweet in which it said, "Our thoughts are with the loved ones of those who have been killed or injured in the terrible attack of the Islamic Center in San Diego and with the emergency services who responded." And I was like, I'm sorry, what's it got to do with the Metropolitan Police? And everybody, it's got nothing to do with them. And people started asking questions like, for example, did you put out a tweet when the Jewish people were attacked in Golders Green? No. Did you put out a tweet when millions and millions of Nigerian Christians were murdered by Nigerian Islamists? No. Are you responding to every single terrorist attack that happens around the world every time that it happens? No. But they somehow decided to say that they were very sorry for the people in San Diego whose mosque was attacked. I find it incredible.
It is incredible, but what was his name, Mike? What was the name of this guy?
His name is Matt Twist, interestingly.
Right. Matt Twist is a man that we as a nation do not wish to advance in his career.
No.
I do not want Mark Rowley, who is himself a particularly incompetent and useless and odious little man.
Yes.
I do not want him replaced with Matt Twist.
No.
I do not wish to see Matt Twist, Chief Constable of Essex Police. I do not wish to see Matt Twist, Chief Constable of Staffordshire Police. I don't want to see his career advanced because he's made that decision. He's wasted public money and public resources. Goodness knows how long they will have spent on the draft. Goodness knows how many people will have been involved. And it's got absolutely nothing to do with the Metropolitan Police other than identity politics signalling for communists, you know, for our communist country, which is currently running on the basis of identity politics. And it's about time we all admitted that identity politics is completely toxic. It adds nothing to the agenda. It doesn't separate good people from bad people. You know, I'm publicly bisexual. Well, I'm sure there are an awful lot of absolutely morally reprehensible bisexual people. There are probably some who are criminals. You know, it just doesn't make anybody good or bad, whatever your identity characteristic is. Not good and not bad by virtue of an identity characteristic.
Yes.
So Matt Twist, I don't wish to see that gentleman I don't personally wish to see him publicly employed. I don't wish taxpayers' money
No.
to be spent on
Well,
this gentleman.
I was about to get onto that.
I don't want to see him advance.
I was about to get onto that subject because the trouble with all of these people who run, and he doesn't actually run the Metropolitan Police. You would think he did by putting out that sort of tweet. But, you know, they operate as if they own the franchise, you know? Like, we own the Metropolitan Police. No, you don't. We actually own the Metropolitan Police. We pay your salary. We tell you, we give you license to actually, you know, run the security of our fine city of London. And we expect you to arrest the bad guys and chase down the drug dealers and the people carrying guns and the shoplifters. And that's your job. You know, your job is not to have your heart bleeding for every single bleeding, you know, terrorist attack around the world that you happen to sympathise with. I'm sorry, that's not your job.
Yeah, I keep watching the death of Stalin, Mike, because we're living in a hilarious country. We're basically living in the USSR without Stalin.
Yes.
I mean, it's just insane. And one that I like to pick up on, which might be a bit obscure for viewers, but I'm sure they'll forgive me, is His Majesty's Courts and Tribunal Service.
Yeah.
It's the ideal. It's every bureaucrat's dream. It's their absolute goal. My goodness, they must love the thing. It's a ministry without a minister.
Yes.
So they get to completely run everything. They put out a blog yesterday. Two of the highly paid, you know, completely unaccountable civil servants got together and wrote a blog on how our country's going to be run, because they, you know what, they had a jamming session and they decided that this is how our country should be run. Well, you don't get to decide. In a proper country, we decide. And
That's
I think
exactly
we need
right.
this reality back.
Well,
This is
I mean,
why
even
want voters
JD Vance has got in on the act, right? He was asked a question in the White House yesterday. Caroline Levitt is unfortunately not being the press secretary at the moment. She's off having a baby. But JD Vance knows that Britain is in a bad place. Have a look at what he had to say.
Over the West, and it's kind of crazy, is this idea that the way to generate prosperity is to bring in millions and millions of unvetted people and drop them into your neighborhoods, and we simply reject that idea. So to everybody in the UK who rejects that idea, I'd encourage them to just keep on going. It's okay to want to defend your culture. It's okay to want to live in a safe neighborhood. It's okay to want your job to go to yourself and your neighbors and not to a stranger who you don't even know. It is reasonable for the people in Western societies to want to control who comes into their country and who doesn't. A lot of people, frankly, a lot of people in the media have tried to persuade all of those people that it's somehow racist to want to protect your borders, even though very often the very people who are most affected by low-wage immigration are lower-income Black and Hispanic Americans right here in the United States of America, and I guarantee that's true in the UK. So we believe in making America great again. You can't do that unless you protect your borders. I'd encourage our friends in the UK to follow the same path. Thank you.
Now, it doesn't seem like a difficult concept, that, does it? Protect your borders, protect your homeland, protect your neighbourhood, protect your house, protect your family. You know, you don't want a load of strangers wandering about inside your house or in the street or down at Dover. You know, how is it possible that JD Vance can get that, but not one individual in the British government can get it?
Well, just over there, Mike, behind me and through the wall is my front door.
Yeah.
And it's there for a very good reason. And I've got I've got strong Burnham locks on it. I've got a London bar. I've got, you know, all sorts of security features. I've got sheet steel in my front door because I wanted to protect my child. And you can say, oh, Stephen was a bit paranoid. I want a bit OTT, and that's absolutely fine. I don't care. I wanted to protect my child, and having a front door, which is a boundary, which is exactly the same as our nation having borders, seemed to me like a sensible thing to do if I was going to keep my child safe. If I'd taken the opposite decision and not had a front door and left that open, would I even be talking to you on this? Because would this computer that I'm streaming to you still be here? Would my child be safer, or would my child be more or less safe if I don't have a front door? And I honestly, everybody knows the answer to that. So all that's been going on is this performative nonsense where our elite class have been rewarding each other if they all dance to this lie. If they all join in the lie, they give each other shiny little fake titles and public money, and you know, everybody's rewarded. No, the apex of this really is the Prime Minister himself. You know, who he is allegedly a knight of the realm. I mean, really. Honestly,
I don't know how he got his knighthood, to be honest.
He's got a gold-plated public sector pension. He's a king's counsel, despite the fact that he can barely talk. He can barely string a bloody sentence together.
Right.
But allegedly, he's supposed to be one of the finest advocates of his day. He's a really bad lawyer, and we've explained this so many times that I should just be able to say that because he obviously is. If he thinks there's a legal argument to give away the Chagos Islands, he's a bad lawyer. Okay.
Yeah.
So and yet he stands there draped in all this finery with titles and public money and public pensions all galore. He stands there, and it's because he was willing to recite these lies and these absolute mantras. And the other point to make quickly, Mike, is God bless America. Thank goodness for them, because many of us were very upset about the rape gangs, but we didn't really say that until Elon said it. And they're giving us permission to sort of love ourselves. It's like we're trauma victims with very, very low self-esteem. And the Americans are sort of coming along and going, hang on a second, you're decent people. You're good. Your country's beautiful. And we're like, oh my goodness, you're allowed to tell us. Oh, we're not complete trash.
Yeah.
Because that's how our government treats us. Yeah. And that's how Andy Burnham is treating the people of Makerfield. They treat us like trash.
Yeah. And they treat us like abuse victims, basically, of domestic violence, don't they? And then every now and again they sort of pull you onto the punch and go, oh, it's all right, don't worry, we'll look after you. We're going to keep the prices of eggs and milk and bread down. We're going to make sure that you can afford to eat. And please be nice to us so that we can get ourselves elected to the next level of corruption that we'd like to continue to enjoy. And that's kind of where we are. I'll finish up by showing you something that I think sums up the problem in this country. This, I kid you not, is a town hall meeting in London, Great Britain, the capital of civilization, right? This is a town hall meeting that took place in Tower Hamlets yesterday. That, I kid you not, is a meeting at Tower Hamlets Council. Apparently there was a row between the Pakistani and Bangla factions of the Awami League. Sorry, the Premier League's just been won by Arsenal. I don't know what the Awami League is. I mean, it's a football league. I don't know what it is.
Southampton are in it.
Southampton are in it, yeah, absolutely. And Celtic, the Cheats League, obviously. I've been having some great fun. Kelvin McKenzie in the house, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back.
Yeah,
welcome back.
I
mean, what can you say? Are you kidding me?
There's nothing you can say, Mike. We all know. And, I'm a great supporter of the idea that being British, is something that you can learn and ascribe to and become. Yeah. I'd like to see the revival of the term gentleman. And I'd like to talk about gentlemen, and I'd like us to care about this, and that we behave in a certain way. And with gentlemen is going to come the word lady too, and we're going to have to talk about how we expect people to behave in certain ways. And basically, what's broken down is the expectation that people will behave in certain ways, and we need to get it back. Every single one of those human beings in that shot could have behaved as a gentleman if they'd wanted to, and they were choosing not to. And I don't want to ascribe other labels to it. Let's just go back to the absolute basics. They're choosing to behave like that. And the way that they are choosing to behave is, and I'm going to use this phrase, even if it really upsets the lefties, it is not acceptable. It's not acceptable to be in a town hall meeting of any. I was a parish councillor, and I wouldn't behave like that in Chepping Wickham Parish. That is not what you do. It is not on. And we need to go back to the idea that certain types of behavior are simply not acceptable. And because if we're going to defeat identity politics, I simply suggest we adopt a universalist position. We say all human beings will be expected to behave in this way.
Yeah.
All male human beings will be expected to behave as gentlemen. All female human beings will be expected to behave as ladies with decorum, decency, honesty, and manners. Because it is breaking down on both sides. You're seeing very bad behavior from women too. And we just have to go back to this universe, which is what Britain really was. Because we've always had people from all over the world coming through here. We've always been international and mercantile. That's how we made a lot of money. It's very profitable to do that. And it's a very good idea to have a lot of money. But I want us to go back to having a lot of money. But we're going to have rules of behavior. And that's what the left hate. The left hate the idea that, why can't I just do what I want? Well, because you can't. Yeah. We have to grow up as a country again and expect all humans to behave themselves.
Yes, I think that's a very good point at which to end. Stephen, great to see you as ever. Stephen Barrett, our favourite barrister, thank you very much indeed. Let's get back to decency, to commonality, to actually behaviour which we can all be proud of, as opposed to that kind of rabble-like stuff that they've imported somehow from India and Bangladesh. Why have we imported it? We don't want it. We didn't ask for it. They don't deserve to be here if that's the way they're going to behave. We're going to talk to Colin Brazier coming up in a very short while. Kelvin McKenzie's back from the United States of America. I've got lots of questions for you, Kelvin. Okay. It would be unkind of me to say that in your absence...
Yeah, don't tell me the audience has risen.
We had the biggest week ever.
I'm not...
And 2 million views in a week.
People had heard about me. People had heard about me.
I think that's right.
And they said...
Exactly right.
They said, right, we must see what Kelvin McKenzie is prepared to get up past 5 in the morning for.
They have missed you. First off, though, let's get some news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning. I'm Eddie, the News Hughes, with your Wednesday briefing. Andy Burnham is heading back to Parliament via the Makerfield by-election. Polls suggest he could give Keir Starmer a proper headache, and Downing Street's apparently not thrilled. Because nothing says party unity like a leadership plot simmering away. In much happier news, Arsenal are finally Premier League champions again after 22 long years. Mikel Arteta's side did it the hard way, naturally, and North London is still bouncing. Well played, Gunners. On the cost of living front, the Treasury is politely asking supermarkets to freeze prices on milk, eggs and bread amid the Iran fallout. Voluntary, of course. Because nothing eases the weekly shop quite like a gentle request to the big lads. And finally, Reform UK has picked a plucky plumber to take on Burnham in the by-election. Should be an interesting scrap. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
They've given me, as Kelvin's arrived, given me something to eat, right? You completely kiboshed the entire production of the show. My apologies. Before we go to Colin Brazier, Kelvin, welcome back. You were in America for a bit, right?
I was, yes. By the way, those Pano raisins, unbelievably, are more than £4 each.
I know.
How about that? Huh?
No,
what is in there? Gold?
Well, this is not actually a Pano
I tell you
raisin.
what, it's the HS2 money. It's being stored inside the Pano raisins.
Yeah. HS2, by the way, what a complete and utter joke that is. 100 billion quid plus. We won't see a train until about 2035, if you're lucky. It won't go very fast, so they might as well not call it HS2. And it won't go anywhere that you want to go.
Okay, so the facts and figures on this. When that idiot Brown okayed this, it was going to cost us 37 billion. It was going to Manchester. Now it's going to cost every estimate has been wrong by a multiple of at least 2. The latest estimate puts it at 112 and 2043, and it's not going beyond Birmingham.
No.
Okay? So this has been a disaster.
And it's not going to be any quicker than the one that already goes to Birmingham.
No, because they're going to have to use, I think, some of the lines. But isn't the truth about the matter is, I mean, this is beyond shocking. We're in this, basically we're in effing Cuba now. Yeah, right. We're being told that milk, bread and
don't put the price of eggs up.
Are going to go up because the government, right, is spending money when they could deal with the whole damn thing overnight if there was a cost of living crisis, cut the energy prices, right? They won't do that because they believe in that, but actually what they want to do is stuff it to commercial fortunes, which is the only reason that this country will get out of where the SHI, right, where it is today. So I've been in the United States. I've been in a small state, South Carolina, in the United States, on a bit of business.
Nice part of the world.
Right. And the truth is that over there, all they talk about is making money and their families. Okay? It's a very narrow existence. But what I found elevating and innovating was the fact that they were talking about making money.
Yeah.
Over here, what we talk about is making welfare or ridiculous
looking after the vulnerable.
Yeah,
that's all we do, right?
Right. And actually, there's no discussion about welfare, and the reason for that is that actually you can make some pretty good money.
Yeah.
So that you're worried about your money.
Yeah.
You're not really worried about the welfare payments.
Right.
Whereas what's happened in this country, thanks to minimum pay and our
It's the
own
other way
pay
round.
being come down,
Yeah.
it's gone like that.
Yeah.
So you get up in the morning, you think to yourself, am I going to go to work, or am I going to get a sick note, and then am I going to go on benefits?
Well, we had a story this week. I don't know if you saw it, if you were back in time. Blue badges, disabled badges for driving cars.
I'm going to go
You
to
now
people
get
with
one
depression.
if you've got anxiety.
Yeah.
You know, I'm feeling a bit, nervous. So you have a blue badge. Can I park on the WL line? Yeah, absolutely no problem at all. Yeah, that Mike Graham guy, though, give him a ticket for driving at 22 miles an hour in a 20 zone because, we need to make some money.
Our country, and actually, funnily enough, we were run by idiots under the Tories as well.
We were? They introduced a lot
They
of
were
this
making
rubbish.
shocking
Yeah.
decisions. This lot have
Yeah.
taken the ball and run for it. And not only that, said, we know we're absolutely up to our necks in it, but I tell you what, we got one other idea. This bloke Burnham, higher taxes, more control.
Working class
Did
hero.
you see about the inheritance
Working
tax
class
idea he's
hero.
got?
Oh, yeah.
Right, he's going to add 10% to inheritance tax, right, of which I am so pleased that Farage says, actually, we're going to do away with a good chunk of it. Because we want to merge social care with the NHS. Actually, it's up to individuals to sort themselves out.
Yes.
Right? It's not as when you get to the end, toward the end of your life, and you're not in great shape. Why you've been on the pies or you've been on the beer, right? You're not in great shape. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go to the government. Now, the government is actually you and I.
Yeah.
Anybody that's earning money is actually the taxpayer.
Yeah.
And the taxpayer then has to foot the bill. Honestly, Burnham will be a disaster. So if there's any people from Makerfield watching this now, honestly, I don't know whether your plumber guy from Reform is great or he's not great. What I do know is he's not Andy Burnham.
Yeah.
Right? Anybody but Burnham.
Anybody but Burnham.
ABB.
Yeah, I think
Remember
that's
that.
right. Absolutely
Makerfield.
right. I had a conversation yesterday. Colin Brazier, please do wait there. I'm going to come to you in a second. Yesterday, right, you might find this amusing. I was forced to phone my energy company because they said to me, you've got to ring us before tomorrow to change your tariff because your tariff's going, and if you don't change it, it's going to go through the roof, right?
Correct.
And of course, you can't do it online. You've got to ring them, right?
Yeah.
So I had to ring them, waiting around. Your call's important to us, all that rubbish, right? Finally got through to some guy. He's like, I'm happy to say, he was from Newcastle. He said, I'm happy to give you £175 of a grant. And I said, oh, that's good. And at the end of it, we did the deal. I signed up to some crap, which is going to cost me, I don't know, 95 quid a month or something. And he goes, have you got any vulnerabilities? And I said, sorry, what do you mean? He said, have you got any vulnerabilities? I said, well, I'm quite vulnerable, actually, yes.
By the way, that's a bloody good accent.
It's all right.
That,
And he goes, I said, I don't know what that means. He said, well, do you need any medicine to be kept in a fridge? And I went, well, I keep wine in the fridge. I said, it's got to be kept at a certain temperature.
And
otherwise,
I have to have plenty of it every
day. And I have
day.
to have quite a lot of it. Also, it doesn't stay in there for long because obviously, I'm necking it. And he just didn't get it at all. It was completely blank face. But I was like, so what are you telling me? Are you telling me, I said to him, are you telling me that if I had some kind of
You would get a
vulnerability,
discount,
I would get a discount? Is that what you're telling me? And he said, yes.
Yeah.
And that's what Britain is now, isn't it?
He said, what you should have said when I occasionally work with Kelvin McKenzie. He said, right, okay, 10% off.
Yeah, or you're probably 10% on, that would be. Colin Brazier's here. Colin, very good morning to you, sir.
Morning, Mike. Lovely to see you. Lovely to hear
Really,
you as well.
really good to talk to you. You're sounding a little bit muffled. I don't know if that's your end or our end, but listen, welcome back to the fight, as they say, because you had declared some years ago that you were going to go off and farm sheep and cows and all the rest of it. But you're now back and you're going to be doing a show kicking off. Is it this Friday you're kicking it off?
It was last Friday, Mike. It's just a sort of monologue, really.
Can we do anything about that?
It's not working.
Can you just go off and come back? Because sorry to do this, but it's sounding very muffled at the moment, which is not good news. Colin is starting a new show on.
What's it going to be called?
A new network. Well, we're going to find out in a minute.
It's not going to be called the Colin Brazier Show, is it?
It's going to be called the Brazier Show every Friday on a thing called Outpost, which is a new another. I mean, you and I talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
It's another independent channel.
Good.
Because people are obviously going. Do you know what? We've had enough of. You've spoken before about. Regular TV dying on its arse, right?
Yeah.
We got a new BBC boss who's come in this week,
yeah.
who's claiming he's going to have to save 500 million quid.
Yeah.
He's going to have to sack a whole bunch of people, apparently. They're talking about putting 52 new YouTube channels up for the BBC.
Yeah.
We've got Channel 4 here cancelling Married at First Sight because apparently people have alleged that there was some jiggery-pokery going on, raping women, saying that they were being forced to have sex.
That's worth talking about later.
Yeah, we will get to that. Are we back with Colin? Let's try again. Colin, let's try that.
Hi, Mark. Does that sound better?
It still sounds really muffled.
Let me call him.
Yeah, why don't you call him back? See if we can fix it. Because, I mean, we want to talk to you about all sorts of things. I'm sorry about this. But yeah, let's talk about the BBC while we wait for Colin.
Well, actually, I tell you what, I'd like to talk about Married at First Sight, which has got a lot of publicity and is now being canned. So what it boils down to, and I'm sorry it's early for this, but what has happened was that at least one couple, the lady who made the major complaint, said that she had an agreement with her partner, right? The whole point of Married at First Sight, if you're married, there's going to be sex, okay?
Yeah.
So
at the beginning, not so much at the end.
Well, it depends. It depends what your interest is in life. But anyway, look. So, but thanks anyway.
I've only been married once, by the way.
Okay,
thanks.
fine. Okay. So anyway, so what it is that allegedly there was an agreement where the didn't have the orgasm inside his wife, right? That was the whole point.
Okay.
Right, and that there was a withdrawal method.
Crikey.
Right.
I know that's down this road.
No, but I know this is detail, but this is what it boils down to. This is what the rape allegation is, right? Now, the thing about the bedroom, the bed and the bedroom in married and in all partner relationships is there is difficulty sometimes between both sides.
Yeah, there can be.
When does somebody feel energized towards it, and when does somebody not want to, and all the rest of it. So the whole basis of this show was likely to end up in a difficult area.
Yeah.
So the real question is, why did Channel 4 start it?
Right.
If this is how any sensible producer would have said. So I think there are plenty of discussions to be had about why it was started. The fact that somebody has finally said, actually, there were actions in the bedroom which I didn't find acceptable.
Right.
I thought
the allegation was, I mean, and I said this yesterday when we talked about this story, that, the problem with Channel 4 is that they make out that they're this kind of public service broadcaster, but they're actually a rather smutty organisation who tries to do anything to do with sex because they sort of snigger behind their hands, like they do that ridiculous Naked Attraction show where people date each other based on how their genitalia look. Right.
Yeah. Well, in your case, it would not be a ratings winner, though, would it?
Well, you might say that, but we certainly couldn't do any worse than some of the rubbish they put out. But the point is that they're sort of smutty purveyors of what you might call soft porn is what they do. And what did you think would happen if you put a load of people who hadn't met each other in a room and paired them off with each other and married them,
put them in a bedroom
and said, you must consummate the marriage,
and it's all got to work out rather well. It doesn't work out rather well in lots of married lives. I mean, about film, TV lives. So I agree with you. This was always potentially going to end in some kind of difficulty.
The whole point of Channel 4, for me, if they say what they do
why don't they just sell
on
it?
the tin, they should either be a commercial channel and do this stuff and see how it goes, or they should take public money, which they do, and make sort of documentaries about things which are so-called important things. But they don't do that. So they're sort of taking the mickey out of us. Let's try Colin Brazier one more time. Is he there? Colin,
Mike, does that sound any better?
there you go.
Hey.
Now we can hear you. Thank God for that.
on.
Yeah, but it's only 3 times. I mean, it was easier than this when you were in Afghanistan, for heaven's sake. You're getting on the old
Can I
satellite.
just say, Mike, I've been listening for all of about 4.5 minutes. I've enjoyed your output more than 25 years at Sky News in 4.5 minutes.
Listen, I mean, it's got to be said. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I mean, I'm glad. Welcome to the independent sphere, is what I'd also like to say to you,
Amen.
because Kelvin McKenzie, to my left here, is a great supporter of ours and a great supporter of the whole concept of going out on your own and doing something. Tell us about your decision and why you decided to come back. Because, I mean, you're a great broadcaster. People have been singing your praises ever since you announced the new Outpost project. So tell us about it.
Well, I'm lazy, Mike. I'm lazy when it comes to journalism. I've sort of done my time in this business. And I went to Cirencester to the Royal Agricultural University. We've still got sheep. We've got pigs. My happy place is the tractor. And I was quite content with that, to be perfectly honest. I felt I had a decent innings in the media. A guy called James Glancy, ex-Royal Marine captain, called me up 9 months ago and said, come on and have a chat to me. And slowly an idea has evolved that we should do a weekly, every Friday, put together a monologue. I started doing monologues at GB News. Andrew Neil did them. American idea. Doesn't work for everybody. I just think there might be a space for a 40, and he thinks there might be a space for a sort of half an hour, 40-minute long, weekly, carefully written, quite lyrical, quite poetical, quite purple prosy monologue that Century Stands listen to in the commute, whatever. So that's what we're going to try. We did the first one last Friday. It did well.
Okay.
The tricky second album, and the third and the fourth. Well, let's see. But we'll give it a punt.
Yeah. And did you enjoy it? Did you feel, because I mean, your career has spanned a whole bunch of, I mean, you were a proper foreign correspondent, a proper war correspondent. You were in places that were dangerous. I did a bit of that in my time, but it wasn't for me. I was more of a Four Seasons kind of foreign correspondent, hotel type. But you were at the front line. You were in Afghanistan. You were in Iraq, and you're not looking to recreate that, right? You're looking to now do something completely different.
It's not about enjoyment, Mike. As you know, it's not about enjoyment. It's not even really about the money. It's about doing right by your community. I mean, as I said to somebody, actually a mutual friend that I and Kelvin have, I said to him recently, my difficulty is that I grew up, I may not sound like it, but I grew up in Bradford. Yeah. And Bradford informs my thinking still. And the time was, Mike, when I could look at Bradford and say, it's an outlier, it's a broken business model, it's sort of Detroit without the music, all the jobs have gone. And you've got an indigenous community that didn't welcome with open arms migrants from Kashmir, but they don't welcome with open arms anybody. They're an indefatigable, stoical breed of people. But I used to think Bradford and its problems were just Bradford's. Oh, maybe Leicester's and part of the, there's Pennine Mill towns and Luton and London, Manchester. It's not. For Bradford, read Bournemouth and Bridgend and Ballater and Belfast and keep on going. So that's I don't want to do this, but Martin Luther style. I think many of us have come to the conclusion we can do no other.
And Britain is in a bad place right now. I mean, Kelvin and I talk about this quite a lot. I don't think it's been in a worse place. Certainly not in my lifetime, anyway.
No, I agree, and it's on all fronts, Mike. It's economic, it's cultural, it's social. Talking to folk, there is just a genuine belief that the country's on the point, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, 10 years, 20 years, bits of the country being effectively ungovernable. Ungovernable. The footage you just showed of a council meeting in Tower Hamlets. Part of the problem, as Mike, Kelvin knows, is that the broadcast media have set themselves apart, and they wouldn't be interested in footage from Tower Hamlets, a chaotic council meeting like that, because they sort of feel that that's not the country that they're there to represent, and they've got this incredible incuriosity about large parts of the country. One of the great things about independent media is that we give a shit. Yeah. And we think that the country needs to be cohesive, and you can't just turn a blind eye to bits of it that you'll never go to because you're too posh and you don't need to live there.
But isn't that true of what's going on in Westminster, Kelvin? That you've got this, like he was saying, Andy Burnham isn't the answer, because London thinks Andy Burnham's the king of the North. He's not the king of the North. Even in the North, they don't think he's the king of the North. This is a guy who pretends he might as well, turn up in front of a camera with a whippet and a flat cap and go, I'm the king of the North. And you go, no, you're not. You're just not, because nobody goes anywhere anymore. People that work in London, in the media, in the Times, in the Telegraph, in the Sun, in the Mail, they don't go out. They sit in their office and they look and talk to each other in some kind of a weird, circular firing squad. And they don't actually go anywhere. Because if they did, they'd know the truth about Manchester. Manchester is not a great place to live. It hasn't been rescued by Andy Burnham. You know, the traffic is horrendous. He spent 200 million quid on a clean air campaign, which didn't go anywhere. You know, the guy's a dud.
And by the way, in Manchester, despite this Manchester, he's been good at the PR, is that 40% of Manchester is seriously deprived.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even as though the people of Manchester are getting on well. I mean, I admire him for his PR. I hate him for his politics. And the idea that we're now going to go further left when we're bringing in Cuban-style politics of imposing price freezes on food, whereas actually there are other solutions which the government won't go down, which won't involve this. We want companies to make money. I don't want companies to actually, what they're saying, the government, on that food thing, it's disgraceful. They're saying you do this and won't impose
regulations,
extra costs on you that we were going to do through our government power and quangos. Really? Well, why do we need the bloody things anyway? These packaging costs and everything are going to come straight to the consumer. So I really hate the way they think. And honestly, I wonder at what stage. And this is why I'm looking at Makerfield. Look, Makerfield, it may be that it's a bridge too far for reform or a competitor. I wouldn't mind if it was the Tories. I don't care who it is, right? But I'd like to see actually somebody puncture that Burnham balloon, because if that happened, then the government is an absolute dud, and I can't imagine how long they will survive. It may well lead to their collapse.
It will. And so, Colin, your plan is to be, I mean, strangely, I don't think of you as right wing. I don't think of myself as right wing, you know. But people see you because you went to GB News as right wing. How do you feel about
that? Uplifted, relieved. I mean, you know, for 20 odd years, I lived a lie at Sky, where you have to pretend to have no opinions. Some pretend more than others. And you have to really pretend if your true opinions are to the right of the political compass. Just what you were saying, Mike, a few moments ago about, you know, journos not leaving the newsroom, just writing up press releases and never going anywhere. It's so true, but isn't it funny how the truth will out ultimately, that technology has found a way, and where individual journalists on the payroll can no longer go, people with smartphones now do. So you've had this wonderful, and I mean that, I think it is wonderful, the democratization of information. I wrote a piece for the GB News website last week, just reflecting on what was happening in Downing Street. That ludicrous, ritualised charade of people hurling questions that are then ignored by ministers when they come in and out of number 10 Downing Street. Meanwhile, the public, noses pressed up at the gates of Downing Street, can't be allowed in. They're not allowed into the magic circle. That magic circle of accredited journalists who don't much leave the office or controlled spaces is coming to an end. And I think that's it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Even people like Andrew Griffiths, Shadow Business Secretary, former senior executive at Sky TV, actually, now Shadow Business Secretary, tweeted a year and a half ago. One of those tweets that should have been picked up was ignored, and said Elon Musk, by buying Twitter, may have just saved humanity. That democratization of information is a wonderful, wonderful thing. You know, it's dangerous, of course it is, but we live in dangerous times.
But we do. I mean, I had a guest on yesterday, a guy called who calls himself AY Audits, right? Who goes around to migrant hotels and films the migrants coming in and out. Talks to the people there. They keep trying to chuck him out. They keep telling him he's invading privacy and all the rest of it. But it's a fascinating project that he does, and he does a great service to the community. But you don't get any you know, what I would call real journalists doing it. You know, they're all pretending it doesn't happen. They're all pretending it doesn't exist. Oh, don't talk about migrant hotels. You know, might cause a bit of division, and the government doesn't like it. And it's like, you know, do your bloody job.
And they've got this relationship with other parts of the media complex as well. I know you tweeted yesterday, Mike. I retweeted as well that extraordinary press release from the Metropolitan Police yesterday, offering words of comfort to the victims of the San Diego mosque shooting.
The San Diego mosque attack. Did you see that yesterday?
And,
I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, that's extraordinary. You've got a whole cadre of press officers now on the taxpayers' payroll who have to justify their often quite expensive existence by issuing fatuous press releases about which they ought to say absolutely nothing. Why does an attack on a mosque in San Diego, 5,000 miles away, earn a press release from the Metropolitan Police any more than an attack on a church in Nigeria, by the way, which is closer to the UK? There's no sense to it. No. And you couple those providers of state endorsed information in the form of government-paid press, taxpayer-paid press offices with a fairly supine media class, and you don't get to the truth.
Yeah, you really don't. So what do you make of the general scenario now in terms of so is the mainstream media finished, do you think? Is this the beginning of the end for them? I mean, I think it is. I think that Sky News, which is about to be bought or sold, I think, in one way, shape or form, or sort of,
I'm
sidelined by Comcast.
Murdoch, the Murdoch people would like to buy it.
Really?
Yeah, they would like to buy it, and I suspect that the reason what they want to do is compete with GB News.
What, and try and turn it into Fox News?
So just change it. And they
tried that once before, and the regulators wouldn't let them.
Oh yeah, but it's a different scene now for the Murdoch people. It will just be another way of losing money for them. The thing about Rupert is he's fine as long as he has power and profit. There is no profit in ordinary media now. There's plenty of losses with no profit. No. Therefore, there is no power, and therefore, in the end of the day, that may not happen. But they've definitely been sniffing around it.
Okay. I mean, I saw some circulation figures for newspapers, which is sort of my background, Colin, and I was shocked to see how low they are. I mean, the Sun now doesn't even register with ABC, so we don't know. But the Mirror, when I left there in 2006, I think it was, they were still doing about 1 million a day. Or million, it turned out that they're now down to 135,000. The Sunday People is 35,000. And you kind of go, I don't even, why are you bothering? You might as well literally, what's the point?
That was what the Darlington and Stockton Times, my first newspaper, that was its weekly sale.
Yeah, right.
It's extraordinary. But that's, so it goes. I mean, that's just changing consumption habits, changing technology. I get that. By the way, if Sky were to return, I mean, I've not heard that story, I have to say, but were it to be true, it would seem more likely they would set themselves up as a much more lefty. I mean, they'd sort of take the gloves off. They pretend not to be lefty. They are very lefty at Sky, but they would be an ideological rival to Sky, to GB News. If they weren't, if they became, in the same trenches of the culture wars with GB News, I'd think about going back to work for them. That could be fun, couldn't it? That broken that business model, that business model is totally broken. 80, 90 years ago, Lord Reith said, we're not going to be like newspapers. We're going to be something different. We will offer you a version of the truth, and you have to believe it. Oh, and by the way, if you don't believe it, you'll still have to keep on paying the license fee. You arrive at the truth by being disputational, whether that's in the courts, there's a prosecution, there's a defence, whether that's in newspapers, you can buy the Sun or you can buy the Mirror, and it's true in politics, government benches, opposition benches, and somehow in TV that model didn't apply, and it's a catastrophe.
Yeah, it is. And because it didn't just not apply because it was fair and balanced, it didn't apply because it just was in one direction only, as we've seen. And whenever you talk to people from the BBC and they go, oh, we're a very diverse organisation, look at all the different people we've got working here. We've got people from different heritages, we've got black people working here, we've got people from India working here, but they're all middle class. Doesn't matter where they went to school. Most of them went to private school. Most of them did not grow up in working class homes. So it doesn't matter what colour they are or what religion they are. They're all the bleeding same.
And they all think the same.
Yeah.
And they all think the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, Colin, wish you the best of luck. And if you're ever in London, come and see us.
Bless you. Thanks for the invitation. Cheers, Mike.
Not at all.
Cheers,
Good to see you.
All
Colin Brazier.
Cheers,
great guy, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, you were asking before why was he given all these kind of plaudits, and because he talks a lot of sense, and he's actually done it. He's been in all the places that as a proper journalist you should have been, and he's done the stories that a lot of people have never done. And I think that's why people respect it.
Yes, that may be the reason. The other reason may be a fresh voice, a fresh independent voice, which I think. In the same way, when you go to Washington, there's a lot of that.
Yes.
That if you are of the right, you get a lot of endorsement from the Trump people.
Yeah. Well, the White House has gone out of its way to augment and amplify the voices of those people
Yeah.
from smaller places on the right, and they've gone to the Washington Post and the New York Times. You can sit at the back. We
Yeah.
don't care about you.
Well, the
You
Washington
know.
Post has changed a little, hasn't it? At least it's been even-handed. After all, the owner said, "I don't mind losing all this money on this project."
now,
Yeah,
right?
Bezos.
Yeah.
He said, "I don't mind losing all this money, but I want you to be fairer." Rather than just pouring a bucket of
Yeah, but what I mean is it used to be known as part of the sort of heritage
No,
media.
it was.
And now what you get is you know, the Trump pushing to the front the people like Newsmax and various other kind of, you know, newcomers and maybe even podcasters who they prefer.
That Newsmax guy, by the way, must have known him as you might have known him, because he's a very decent guy. He has been pushing his view of politics, which is one that you and I basically agree with. He must have been doing it now for 45 years, right? He's never made a penny out of it, and only now, as somebody suggested, that things are going to go rather well for him. Absolutely fantastic to see somebody who's been wandering around in the desert for 4 decades, and suddenly they describe that he's a prophet. You know, I really do like that.
Yeah, I think it's great, and I think also it tells you something about the ability of a political organisation like the Trump sort of organisation, if you want to call it that, to recognise that people out there rather like that kind of popular journalism. They rather like what that journalism tells them, and so therefore,
well, you're an example of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a standing start, and as you kindly point out, immediately I'm nowhere to be seen. The audience hits a record high, and well done. And yet, you know, if somebody had put this idea to you 10 years ago, you would have said, "Look, mate, I think I'd rather take the regular paycheck from mainstream media." Now you're earning more than the regular paycheck, and the other people that are enormously interested in you are now HMLC, who previously
Thanks for pointing that out. I mean, you know, I'm still in negotiations with some learned friends on that one, but we'll get to that a bit later on. Kelvin McKenzie, back from the United States. I've got lots to ask you about American, actually, and apart from when you were in South Carolina, what people were saying. A couple of super chats, shall we do, Charlotte? Before we go to the news, thank you from Simon. Very nice, very kind of you. And another one. Oh, crikey. 30 quid he's given us there. This is how popular we are. This one from Roy Boy. Love to hear Charlotte giggling in the background with some of the posts. Yeah, it's always good. Some of the stuff that's been coming in this week has been really funny. Colin is beyond amazing. Love his new show already, says Angel. So, I mean, that's good news for him. Hopefully he does well. Colin is what we call normal. He actually is, you know, and the funny thing is that somebody normal seems unusual nowadays, because you don't normally hear people actually saying what they think. Why aren't you talking about the young lad stabbed multiple times, dying, yet the police cuffed him because the attacker said he was racist? It's a good story, that, and we did talk about it last week.
Where is that from?
When it happened last week. It was a guy who was attacked in what could only be described as a racial attack, but the police actually handcuffed him and he bled to death, sort of in police custody, if you like. Meanwhile, the attacker, who was, can't remember if he was an asylum seeker or not. Was he a Sikh? Yeah, I mean, there was some kind of racial aspect to it anyway. But yeah, I mean, we'll certainly talk about the story. We did talk about it last week. But we talk about a great many things on this show. Mike, I don't think Pooch would allow you to eat on air. No, he wouldn't. I didn't think I was eating on air. I was trying to eat during the break. That's what I was doing. And I'm going to do it again in a minute, because we're going to go to the news and get some news from Edward Hughes.
Good morning. I'm Eddie, the News Hughes, with your Wednesday briefing. Andy Burnham is heading back to Parliament via the Makerfield by-election. Polls suggest he could give Keir Starmer a proper headache, and Downing Street's apparently not thrilled. Because nothing says party unity like a leadership plot simmering away. In much happier news, Arsenal are finally Premier League champions again after 22 long years. Mikel Arteta's side did it the hard way, naturally, and North London is still bouncing. Well played, Gunners. On the cost of living front, the Treasury is politely asking supermarkets to freeze prices on milk, eggs and bread amid the Iran fallout. Voluntary, of course. Because nothing eases the weekly shop quite like a gentle request to the big lads. And finally, Reform UK has picked a plucky plumber to take on Burnham in the by-election. Should be an interesting scrap. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Welcome back. I managed to get rid of what I was just eating there. We are now well into the second hour of the show. We're going to talk to David Mannix coming up in a little while. But let me ask you about your trip to America, without impinging on whatever it was you were doing there. Did you find people asking you about Britain and saying, what's happened to Britain?
No, they didn't ask about it, but if we moved into areas where that was appropriate, right, they all knew, by the way, they all knew that we were completely up shit creek, right? And that migration played a big issue. And of course, if you're in South Carolina, the other issue, of course, is that the Trump effect has been great. Because actually what used to be a tide of people coming through has now come to nothing. Right? They're not coming through because they know they're going back, and they're going back probably in difficult circumstances. So there was one other aspect of it which I found different, was really that people were quite open about the fact they were making money and either doing well or doing poorly. Mainly, the imbalance between us and the US is about earnings. Right? So you can come across. So, for instance, I bump into some guy. I was near Augusta, which is where the Masters is held, and there is a tremendous commercial golden train associated with the Masters. To the point, he ran a small restaurant, Bodega, and he said, thanks to renting his house out and actually doing some events in which fans could come and eat, he made net in 1 week 200,000.
Wow.
Right. And actually then said to me, right, he's a young guy, he's probably in his early 30s, then said to me, actually, my restaurant normally takes in revenues 30,000 a month all year. So he made more money in 1 week than he would make in the whole year. Now, the fact is that somebody was talking to me about it. And that's another aspect of. So huge amounts of money can be made for quite small businesses. And what's happening is that actually it's not they're proud, it's just a matter of fact. Whereas in the UK, our people are either not saying, because they think it's rather infra-dig, or actually they are challenged today, I think, by trying to make money. Right? Making money is the only way we are going to get out of the current malaise. And we have to encourage entrepreneurs. For instance, I'll tell a quick story. Okay, good friend of mine, never made anything of himself in the UK, married a South Carolina girl, 2 kids, everything going great. So he goes to his bank, so he's a golf coach. He goes to his bank, and on the piece of land that he does his golf coaching, they're going to sell it, the owners. They want £325,000. He goes to the bank, local community bank, and they ask him 3 questions. 1, he said, are you a customer of the bank? No. 2, have you any steady earnings? No. 3, have you any savings? No. The answer to any of those 3, or even getting through the bloody door at HSBC or Lloyd's or NatWest, would be boom.
That's it.
Dazed and confused on the sidewalk. Boom. They said, yeah, then we'll go and have a look at this. On this piece of land was a house which was rented out for $12,000 a year. They came back and said, yep, we'll lend you the lot. But you're on the hook for your house. It was his wife's house. On the hook for the house for 2.5 years. That was 5 years ago. 2 things have happened. First of all, he's now through the 2.5 years. He's not going to lose the house. Secondly, the
house is collateral for the loan.
It was, and the rent was really that they saw some earnings. And actually, the price of the land may have doubled or gone up 50%. That's not really the point. He's paid down some of the debt. All these things, you've got more chance of flying to the moon in this country of being lent that money. That guy is now independent, right? He can see a future for himself, a future that would be denied in the UK. Unless we understand that banks are not there just to take your money, they have to be on the risk side of decisions, right? Otherwise, we are never, ever, ever going to get out of this kind of socialist malaise of which Burnham and Starmer are twins in the same political sphere. It's an absolute shocker. Let's worship actually people creating wealth and jobs in our country. After all, today, I see you've got open there.
Yeah.
You've got Standard Charter going to lay off 8,500 people. Now, he should have written this in a better way, describing those that are going.
Well, this is what I wanted to bring up with you, because he's described the people who they want to let go of, and this is in favour of in bringing in more AI, lower value human capital.
Yeah, well, look. He was
thankfully,
wrong.
you and I don't fill that particular category.
No,
I don't think either one of
have
us
been.
is lower value human
If I
capital.
go to certain parts of the country, I think I would be considered in that review. And anyway, so I think that our jobs are going. Some jobs are going to be under threat.
They are,
and so I have a friend of mine who was a digital director for a major bank. He says to me, right? He says to me that the job losses at banks will be off the scale.
Yeah.
Right? So he said this to me about a month ago.
Right.
He said, and insurance companies and anything, and that middle management are the ones who are going to be considered low value.
Well, I would certainly agree with that. Middle management should all get to
lots
help.
of jobs to go. He also said dangerously, he said, if your job is actually focused on your desktop or your laptop, if that is what your job is, he said, that job is in peril.
Yeah.
Now, I honestly, that is a very dangerous, if he turned out to be right, and this is just the beginning of it.
It is.
Because all banks, very quietly, without announcing this kind of stuff, right, are laying people off.
Yeah.
Insurance companies will be the same.
And these people who are being laid off, who are being described as lower value human capital, where are they going to find another job?
They are not.
They're probably not, are they?
Right.
That's the problem.
Well, what's going to happen at supermarkets?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, everybody now, I prefer actually to do my own rather than
Well, you'll be
queue
one
up.
of the few people now who actually pays for what you purchase at a supermarket, as opposed to just running out the door with it. You know, 'cause
Yes,
that's what most people do.
That is true.
You know?
Why don't Tesco's have their own athletics meetings?
Yeah.
Right. Shoplifter runner of the year. Right. Because you're quite right that they get to it and then they run like fury, and sometimes they have cars waiting for them, don't they?
Yeah. You know what I think they should have is those. You remember in the first Rambo film where he creates those the snap. Of the spiky tree that comes and gets you if you're running the wrong way and you hit a trap, and there should be traps set basically outside of supermarkets. So if you're running out with stuff and you're not allowed to go down the right way, you just literally get sort of
your memory of late 1970s films is better than mine.
Often accused of these are the only films I ever watch, because they've all been saved on Amazon Prime, and if I sit down on Saturday night and other people may have gone to sleep, I go, I'll just watch Rambo.
I'll watch it again. At least you know where the end is. But look, so you tie this in. This is why I thought yesterday was actually a very upsetting moment, I think, for parents, because youth unemployment was on the up. Again, I think it's like 16.2% of 16 to 24s. But the other fact that I was absolutely astonished by was that 35% of the young who are NEET, not in work or education, right, had not in work is the main thing. Had A levels, and 10.6% of them had degrees. So we're churning out people, not stupid people. We're turning out people who are unwanted. Or unable to take part in the workforce. How is this possible? And we can't carry on like this, right? It doesn't matter what politics we're in. If the young can't find work when they come out of school or college or uni, then at that moment we are on the edge of a political revolution and explosion. And so this is why we need young entrepreneurs failing, losing money, but trying new ideas. The atmosphere in the States I found entirely different. I went through Atlanta, I went through South Carolina, I was through New York City. New York City was not
I think they're in a bad place at the moment.
Explosive.
No, they're in a bad place.
As I found, strangely enough, a small state like South Carolina, which is only, I think, 5 million people, which is it's almost half the size of London. Nevertheless, there was a confidence about the future, which I didn't really feel. I felt that New York City was much more Londonish.
Well, I was speaking to Greg Swenson, who you might know is the Republican overseas guy who used to live in London, who's moved back to Chicago because of the tax scenario.
Oh, right. Wait,
So
what was he, a non-dom?
He was a non-dom, making a lot of money, worth an awful lot. He lived in Eaton Square, right?
Yeah.
Moved out. He was saying that in America right now, a lot of people are moving to what they call the red states because the tax efficiency is so much better. People are moving from California to places like Florida and probably South Carolina because they can make more money and they can keep more of it as well. So this whole kind of...
those people described as blow-ins, right? Actually, the people of South Carolina do not want the blow-ins from California because they say they are diluting. They're bringing their woke ideas as they view them.
Well, that's what happened in Nevada. When in the last presidential election, Nevada, which was generally speaking a Republican state, suddenly went Democrat because of all the tosses that had come from California.
For the tax break.
Yeah, for tax breaks. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, listen, we're going to talk to David Maddox in a moment, who is the top man, independent political editor. But before that, I've got some news for you, right?
Oh, right.
Now, you're asking what we're doing about getting young people work, right? The Department of Education put this out yesterday. This will be, number 3, I think, Charlotte. Check this out.
Right. What are we doing to help the children?
Come in, let's have a chat.
What's this about?
That is Bridget Phillipson.
Oh, I know that.
The Secretary of State for Education, trying to get children to be interested in doing particular kinds of work by getting old fatso, Gemma Collins, to go in and be the poster girl for this is how you can get ahead in life.
Can I just point out to you, mon brave, that pots and kettles come to mind when referring to Gemma Collins as old fatso. I agree, she is old fatso.
You could fit 3 of me into her, and I don't mean it in that way.
It sounds like Married at First Sight.
I know.
Should do the falling clip.
Let's do what she's really good at. This is Gemma Collins. That was her falling off the stage.
Where at? Where was that at?
I think it was something.
Teen Choice Awards.
What was it?
Teen Choice Awards.
Yeah, the Teen Choice something awards show. Yeah, she fell down the off the stage. Anyway, listen, let's talk to David Maddox.
I feel very sorry for the stage if she fell on it.
Well, imagine the people having to lift her up.
Yeah.
Well,
she
David,
probably had to get a lift.
Very good morning to you, sir. Sorry about all the carnage going on here. McKenzie's back, so it's all gone a bit mad. How are you, sir?
Yeah, all good. Thanks, Mike. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, the last time we were speaking to you, it was all about Peter Mandelson and the Morgan McSweeney phone scenario, which all seems to have been completely forgotten because we're now in the grip of Burnham fever, and everybody seems to think Andy Burnham's the answer. I'm not sure he is.
I'm not very sure he is either, to be honest. I mean, one thing we can say about Andy Burnham, though, compared to what's there already, is he can at least communicate, and he can actually hold a conversation with people and get them to understand what he wants to do. So that would be an improvement on the current occupant of number 10. But, I'm not sure he's even going to win. So let's.
Well, a slightly disturbing story on the front page of the Times today, suggesting that Starmer may still be in Downing Street when the new year comes.
Well, I mean, it's not impossible. I mean, the Labour MPs seem to have decided that the country can wait for weeks and weeks until this by-election, with a zombie government that can't do anything or employ anybody, or, he can't even reshuffle his cabinet properly because nobody wants to work for him. And of course, if Burnham does lose, the whole thing is plunged into even deeper chaos because they'll actually have to have a leadership contest with the people they don't want. And that'll drag on for weeks and weeks more. So, I mean, my guess is we're going to end up with a new leader, prime minister around the Labour Party conference in the autumn. But it's going to drag on, definitely.
Right. But if there was a scenario where Burnham doesn't win, which, as you say, is quite likely, to be honest, what happens then? Does streeting Because they're all sort of fighting over this this leadership contest that hasn't actually started yet. Would Streeting then step up? Would he then be the stalking horse for Ed Miliband? What would happen?
I mean, it started, but it hasn't started officially. I mean, it clearly Streeting will go for it, and I would guess Angela Rayner. That's my guess. I think it'll end up being Rayner versus Streeting.
Really?
And I know Kelvin will be particularly delighted with the idea of Angela Rayner becoming Prime Minister, because that scenario, the most likely outcome is Angela Rayner in number 10.
Wow. I mean, does she have the wherewithal to pass the various tests that she would need to pass in order to get in there, though?
Well, I mean, the only test you'd need is to get the most votes off Labour members and trade unions. It's not even the country. You know, if the country was voted for it, they'd probably go for West Streeting out of the two of those two. But it's the Labour Party and trade union members. So, you know, they tend to be more soft left. And so, yeah, I think the likelihood is she'd win.
Do you know, in a funny way, I'm vaguely in favour of Rayner on the basis that would finally destroy the Labour Party for more. It would do for Labour what the Tories managed to do to themselves over 14 years. It would make people would find it intolerable, I think.
I wonder if Burnham would have the same effect if he did. I mean, I don't think he's going to win, but if he did win and he did become the leader.
Why do you say that? I've seen the predictive markets out of the US, and the predictive market is 66 Burnham, 33 anybody else. Right. Which is, is 2 to 1 basically. Whereas my bookie only offered me 11 to 8, so I was a bit.
I think that's a false market. I think they're underestimating the reform vote. They're underestimating the way, because like we saw, you said to me before the election, in the local election, do you think it will be bigger or smaller than what they're predicting? And I said maybe smaller. Turned out you were right. It was bigger because more people actually don't admit that they're going to vote reform.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I do agree with that. But what I don't know is whether the PR from Burnham travels. We get a lot of it down here, and because it's a story. Whereas if you live in Macclesfield, in that Macclesfield area, where they're in the same shit that the rest of us are in, and actually ignore the PR and don't believe in the King of the North aspect. That's what we don't know, but you never know to the day. But you've got to believe that Labour, that whoever the Labour candidate is likely to have a better chance. Yeah. After all, they had that nasty anti-journalist. Before, who decides...
Oh, Josh Simons.
Yeah, Josh Simons, who I was absolutely delighted he got slung out. And I hope to God that nobody ever decides that he should be slung in again.
Well, no, he's been promised a job in Andy Burnham's cabinet if Andy Burnham wins, apparently.
Well, how can he have the job in the cabinet? Is he going to stand again as an MP?
Well, he'll get a job as a special advisor or something like that.
Oh, I see what you mean, be a SPAD of some kind.
Yeah, something like that.
Or become Lord Simon or something.
Well, you couldn't imagine a man less likely to be liked in the north of England than this guy, Josh Simons. No. I mean, he is literally North London through and through. And why on earth he managed to stand up there and win is extraordinary. But, I'm looking at some of the tweets from Dan Hodges this morning, who he more or less says, and I sort of groomed Dan
I think
Hodges
he's making that up, by the way.
Into a hatred of
I think Dan Hodges has got a machine out the bag. It's a bit of an AI. He doesn't actually exist. And he actually says, what story would I like to read? And he says, how about saying that the plumber guy in Macclesfield has had to clean up his social media? Can I tell you that when you go on any of those, if you go on Love Island, as you would expect, I'm on there on a kind of regular basis. If you go on Love Island,
the veterans,
the first thing they tell you is clean up your social media, right? So the fact that this guy is asked to rightly cleans up his social media, so what? If Love Island does it, shouldn't Reform do it?
West Streeting could probably do with cleaning up his social media as well, but that's another story. But how about this, though? This is what Dan says today. He's basically saying that there's a complete and utter lack of reality in Downing Street. The Times brief, we know the Times, and you'll know this, David, is now the mouthpiece of the Labour government. Basically, that's where they go to plant their stories.
Which is true.
Most staggering quote of a truly mind-bending briefing to the Times. says Dan, is, and this is a quote, allies of the Prime Minister also suggest that Burnham's candidacy for the leadership could yet be scuppered if Labour goes on to lose control of Greater Manchester. Some Starmer lawyers argued that Labour losing the mayoralty would fatally undermine Burnham's appeal as an election winner. And I mean, he's right, isn't he? Because there is all of this ridiculous kind of, pro-Starmer nonsense being pumped out by the Times at the behest of Downing Street. I mean, I don't know what's happened to that newspaper, but it's pathetic, isn't it?
Well, I mean, they've just got a rich source of stories to seem, haven't they? Coming out of Downing Street. I mean, so fair enough with the Times, but I mean, it's all desperate stuff from Downing Street, really. It's like all these kind of dirty tricks to going around telling MPs that Andy Burnham will bring back Jeremy Corbyn, even though Jeremy Corbyn doesn't want to come back.
Yeah, go on.
I mean, the fact is that if Burnham wins, it's going to be a coronation, whether Starmer likes it or not, and that's what he's trying to avoid. He doesn't want Burnham back, obviously, because he wants to keep his job, but he won't keep his job anyway. So it's all fairly fruitless on his part.
David, can I ask you just two questions? One, will I presume any change of PM leads to a change in the Chancellor? And secondly, I don't know whether you've been following any of the rather chippy interviews that Lammy has been giving to the media, in which I listened to him on the Today programme, but I missed Nick Ferrari, but I'm gather the Ferrari one was even chippier. Does he believe that he'll be out on his rather fat arse as well?
Yes, and yes. I mean, I think everybody's looking at a way of getting rid of Rachel Reeves.
Right.
The change of leader will. I mean, I think Starmer wanted to get rid of Rachel Reeves. It's just that he can't do it because he's so weak at the moment.
Right.
But,
well, you might have seen. Did you see that story, Kelvin, last week, where Angela Rayner supposly was offered the Secretary for Health and said, "No, thanks, I don't want it." He can't even give the jobs away.
I'm told his second choice was Louise Hay, she of the mobile phones. But I'm not joking. I'm literally not joking. James Murray was third choice at best. He's good on the broadcast round. We'll let him have a go. But this is a desperate situation they're in. He still hasn't got a director of comms after the last one walked out because nobody wants to go in there. Nobody thinks it's a long-term prospect. So,
what about Lammy? What about Lammy? Lammy to go as well because that'll help.
I think Lammy's gone as well. Lammy's mates with Starmer. So, he's not there because he's deputy leader. He's there because he's close to Starmer as deputy prime minister. I think if Burnham gets in, I wouldn't be surprised if Lucy Powell becomes deputy prime minister because she's deputy leader and she's close to him. Streeting and Rayner, goodness knows, but it certainly won't be Lammy.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks very much, though.
Excellent stuff. Right. Good to talk to you, David. Thank you very much indeed. We continue to watch with some fascination. I wanted to play you a clip actually from the show yesterday because this was my take on Keir Starmer's current situation. And Lammy gets an honourable mention as well. Check this out. Should we play it? Yeah, so it turns out that Starmer's obviously been told, here's how you kind of, sail through the troubled, choppy waters, right? You start smiling a lot more, so he's doing all that. He's empty inside, he's like a husk. He's just sitting there going, nobody likes me, they've all stabbed me in the back. But if I smile, and did you notice he said, I'd like to run, rather than I will run for the election for the next time.
Maybe
he knows he's done.
They've forced some media training on him over the weekend. That's what was happening in Chequers, maybe.
Yeah. Well, maybe they had somebody in there with a rubber hose beating him and put the glove on. Madelson knows some people.
Yeah. It'd be like a spitting image sketch with Madelson dressed up with his kind of black leather gloves and a truncheon.
Coming in as Darth Vader, the Dark Lord. It'd be great, wouldn't it? That's what you want, isn't it? So, I would watch that. I would pay to see that.
And we're streeting Skywalker, presumably, is he?
I think he is. Yeah.
And who's Jabba the Hutt?
Jabba the Hutt must be Lammy, mustn't it? I think the best thing we can do, and why people love this show, is because we ridicule all of it, right? And, you imagine the scene. You imagine the Star Wars bar, David Lammy as Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah.
Keir Starmer sitting there wondering what's going on. Om Anderson walking in as Darth Vader. It brings it all to life, doesn't it? I mean, that's what we're really looking at here.
What you can do with AI, you could actually do all that.
Yeah, you could create all that.
You could take their film and really transform it into something else. But so Lammy to go. And he kind of knows he's going, and he objects to the media kind of pointing it out to him.
Yes.
So that has cheered me up no end on my
Well, the
return.
Ferrari interview, we played it the other day, actually, which was, as usual, a tour de force from Mr. Ferrari, where he just said to Lammy, you keep saying that this, a Unite the Kingdom march is full of racists. He said, did you attend the march? No. And it was like, nobody, and he said, well, how do you know it was full of racists and poisonous? Well, I think we all know what Tommy Robinson's like. And he made a complete fool of himself. He then claimed that 43 people had been arrested, which was wrong, because there were 43 people arrested, but not all at that march. So some of them were arrested at the other march.
Really?
And
Is that true?
And then he said, I haven't seen the numbers. And he's like, well, hang on, you're the Justice Minister. You've come onto a radio show to talk about the number of arrests that were made 2 days ago, and you've got it wrong. But it's just ridiculous. The guy's a joke. Completely nuts a joke.
I love Ferrari on the basis that he seems to be able to do it in such a calm way.
He does, and he calls him Sir in the middle of it as well, which is even because it's the way he calls him Sir.
What, as in CUR, you mean?
Well, but he does it in such a way that it's so disingenuous as to say, I'm calling you Sir because I should, but actually I don't really mean it. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
I'm in favour of the changes in a strange way for Labour, because actually that does hurry home the moment that the country is in so much trouble that potentially they may be forced either to go to the IMF or go to or actually go to the nation for another general election. I agree the second one is almost out of the question, but the first one becomes a possibility, and at that they will be destroyed for at least 10 years.
Yeah, minimum.
So we don't have to then worry
I think,
about
and I said this a couple of weeks ago, that I think Keir Starmer's legacy, people are saying, what's his legacy? His legacy will be that he killed off the Labour Party. I don't think it's coming back. I think if it goes, it doesn't come back in 10 years. It doesn't come back at all.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. But the one I do see going down.
Well, you won't be around to find out, will you? Basically, I mean, I'm sorry to say that to you at this
I
point,
think if we had a race to the doctors, to be honest with you, Mike, I suspect you might be there first, in which they have to. I would be there first. He'd have to put on the plastic gloves.
I would be there first. Do you know that last Monday, right, I lifted 55 kilos.
Of cocaine?
No, 55 kilos of weight right, on a deadlift 20 times.
So that was what, a quarter of your weight?
It doesn't matter how much of my weight it is, but I'll take you any day you like to the gym that I go to. Any day you like.
Competing.
Right? Well, you just said you wanted to run to the doctors with me.
Yeah, well, I do.
Right? Yeah. Because you're making out that I'm not fit, but I'm actually fitter than you've ever been. You've had to give up drinking to get as fit as you are. I've managed to continue to drink 2 bottles of wine a day and still be fitter than you. This is my point. Anyway, what are we doing now?
The news.
The news with Edward Hughes. Here we go.
What's that? Good morning. I'm Eddie, the News Hughes, with your Wednesday briefing. Andy Burnham is heading back to Parliament via the Makerfield by-election. Polls suggest he could give Keir Starmer a proper headache, and Downing Street's apparently not thrilled. Because nothing says party unity like a leadership plot simmering away. In much happier news, Arsenal are finally Premier League champions again after 22 long years. Mikel Arteta's side did it the hard way, naturally, and North London is still bouncing. Well played, Gunners. On the cost of living front, the Treasury is politely asking supermarkets to freeze prices on milk, eggs and bread amid the Iran fallout. Voluntary, of course. Because nothing eases the weekly shop quite like a gentle request to the big lads. And finally, Reform UK has picked a plucky plumber to take on Burnham in the by-election. Should be an interesting scrap. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Okay. Welcome back to the Mike Graham Show. Kelvin McKenzie is in the house. We've got lots more to talk to him about. Also, we're going to be talking to Adam Cherry from Guido Fawkes in a little while. But right now, we're going to take a little diversion into the world of animal protection. we're going to talk to John Kelvin, who is with us now, having rescued, I think I'm right in saying, John, some beagles. Tell us about it.
Good morning, Mike.
Morning.
Well, that was a long time ago. That was 35 years ago. I went to prison for 18 months for rescuing 82 beagles. But what I have done is camped outside of a beagle factory, a puppy factory. Can you believe it? Still to this age, people people think it was banned in the 70s. I spent 5 years camped out. There's our camp there. 5 years, and we said we're not leaving until we get the dogs out. But do you know where I'm off to now? I'm off to Peterborough Magistrates because I've been bailed away yet again by the police. The police are used by MBR, this American company that breeds puppies, as a private arm of their security firm. The police have bailed me away. But I made a Facebook post. It was about a parliamentary petition. We've had 4 parliamentary petitions. We've got 200,000 signatures in 10 days. The people are with us. But the police are not. The police are with the puppy killers. And I made a Facebook post about the parliamentary petition, and I strayed upon there's been some amazing scenes come out of America recently. 1,500 beagles were liberated. 1,500 puppies were saved from this stale, old, outdated practice of poisoning dogs on behalf of chemical and pharmaceutical companies. And I used the royal we. I said, we've got to get our shit together. We've got to get organised. The police have arrested me under the Serious Organised Crime Act. But don't worry, I'm used to it.
That's good. So these beagles are being experimented on for the purposes of cosmetics. I thought that was illegal now.
Not necessarily cosmetic, for chemicals. Everyone wants to think it's illegal. I have lived outside this puppy factory for over 5 years. I have witnessed over 10,000 dogs going to toxicology laboratories. We experiment on millions of animals in the UK alone. I think it's like wishful thinking. It's so bad. I mean, Gandhi called animal experiments the darkest of all crimes. Think of the atrocities that man saw. George Bernard Shaw said 100 years ago, anyone who wouldn't hesitate to vivisect would hardly hesitate to lie about it. Back in the 80s and the 90s, we used to be able to get 20,000 people on the streets about animal testing, but it went away and everyone wanted to believe it's not happening. I can tell you now, as an eyewitness, it's happening. There's recently been a whole more harrowing pictures actually released by a broken-hearted worker, which shows the same images of what we've seen. Dogs with getting tubes rammed down the throat, monkeys held down in metal chairs. We're still in the dark ages. You've just been talking about AI. This would never get. Imagine it now. If you came up with an idea, I know. Look, I've got a new pesticide or an insecticide or a new chemical I need to put in the paint. Why don't we test it on some dogs and some mice and get global sales? This is what we're up against. Yeah. We're up against massive multinational corporations who have done this for 70 years, and it needs to be ended.
It must be surely possible for them now to find some kind of alternative method. There must be a way of creating some kind of robot or some kind of AI situation, as you say. There must be a way of doing that, surely.
There's a whole plethora. They're queuing up for new techniques, and they're going to change it. The industry are going to change it, but it's like turning an oil tank around. Yeah. Animal testing makes the HS2 project or the Horizon project look sophisticated. It's the dark ages, and it doesn't work. I've spent 40 years doing this, and I didn't waste my time, but we used to concentrate on the cruelty and the morality. Now we concentrate on the science because there is none. You, as a journalist, will not find a single scientist or anybody, in fact, apart from one person who's from a lobby group that will defend these tests. It's shocking.
Yeah, it really is. Well, good luck to you, man, and well done for doing it for such a long time. And can people help you to do it? Have you got a crowdfunder scenario or anything like that going on?
We don't never ask for money. Money's not going to do this. Give me £1 million today, and it's not going to do this. What's going to do this is love, compassion, determination. Be like a little terrier. We never give up. I've been doing this for 40 years. There's a statue in London that was erected in 1906. In 1906, people were broken-hearted about this new emerging science of mad professors nailing dogs to tables. On that plaque, it reads, "Men and women of England, how long shall these things be?" That was in 1906, and here we are, 2026, still doing it. It's going to be get rid of, but it's like sending people over the trenches when we know the ceasefire is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's a waste of life, and it's not science, it's violence.
Yeah, it really is. Well, listen, John, best of luck to you, and we'll do what we can to raise it with politicians, get them to change the law in some way, shape or form. And maybe we need to talk to Elon Musk and tell him to invent something that can actually be used as a testing facility.
It was there when I was giving out leaflets in the 80s. We were talking about cell cultures, tissue cultures. It's there. Everyone knows it's going to end. But in the meanwhile, millions of lives every year, just in the UK, these animals are tortured. It's medieval and it needs to stop.
Yeah, absolutely right. Listen, John, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Sorry we've got to cut you short now, but we've got stuff to do.
So I'm up to the magistrates to get them to send me back to court because I'm banned by the Cambridge police. And I've never lost a battle in court yet. They spent, NBR spent £4.5 million to try and get rid of me. I'll be back in the camp this afternoon.
Great stuff. John, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. John Curtin. Warms the cockles of your heart, you see guys like that, who actually are old-fashioned British fighters who will not take no for an answer. It is extraordinary, isn't it? They haven't, I mean, for all of the...
I didn't understand that. I thought testing, do you remember those pictures back in the day of beagles smoking? Do you remember that? I thought that was all banned.
Well, it supposedly is, and I think it's banned in terms of everything apart from pharmaceuticals, and I think that's what he's talking about. He's talking about drugs. So, because the health industries and the pharmaceutical industries will say, well, what are we supposed to do? We can't test this stuff on humans. We have to test it on animals. But there must be surely now a way of making AI responsible for that kind of thing, or some kind of robotic
you would have thought that
scenario.
they could replicate the reactions of something that wasn't human, right? In order to make this work. Clearly, the thing I was surprised about with that guy was that he was not a nutcase.
Yeah.
Right. So often you get people with those soul ambitions for change are rather crazy. But that guy seemed to me to have some kind of intellectual strength to his arguments, which often you don't find with those lone one-note samba kind of people.
Yeah. No, I mean, funny enough, Charlotte, when she set the interview up, I said, are you sure about talking to animal rights people? Because they can be a bit anarchist-like.
And violent themselves.
And maybe not actually, people that we should be endorsing. But he clearly is a guy that we should be endorsing because I think he's...
And I did find it interesting that when you offered him the opportunity...
didn't want the money.
To take the money. He rejected that.
Yeah.
That will be the first person I have ever heard say that, including you.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm available for hire at all times for almost anything, as you know. I sometimes do things for nothing, but not very often. I mean, we started this business, and I thought, I don't know how this is going to go, to be honest. We had to stick our necks out. A couple of other stories to tell you. There's one. Let me get this up here because there's.
Did you track down the story? I can't imagine how angry your viewers will be about the story that emerged yesterday in Shropshire of the ex-nurse who, 49-year-old mother with a child, right, has. Thrombosis,
right,
and she's and generally slightly unwell, and she claims PIP. In claiming PIP, she then decides to say, actually, I should have the top layer of PIP. She was given the basic money. She said, I want the top layer of it. And they said, well, why is that? She said, well, for two reasons. I'm housebound.
Right.
I can't walk more than 50 meters.
Right.
And I can't even carry heavy shopping bags and put them here. Right. Okay. So they decided to have a look at her, in which she emerges that she has done 3 10K runs, right, in just over an hour, right, which is, to run it.
That's pretty good.
That is,
to run it at all is decent.
Right. She was going to Zumba classes. She had her own personal trainer at the gym.
Yeah.
And they filmed her coming out of Aldi's, I think. And she had no problem at all carrying the bags and putting them in the car. So she'd got £25,000 in excess payment.
Right.
And there are 4 million PIP claimants in this country. I was just wondering what percentage are like her. And secondly, she got jail for 7 months. Okay. Afterwards, her husband was embraced by members of his family, and he wept.
Yeah.
Can I just say about that husband? Did he never occur to him that the PIP payments, which were helping fund the household, because she was no longer a nurse, she was an ex-nurse, right, might have come from an area of which there might have been a question mark.
Well,
right? And I'm not saying
surely he's complicit. He must be. Right.
Well, actually, if you do that and it's crime and it's bank thing, by the way, you get done for money laundering.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're just sitting there and spending money to which you're not entitled and you can't track back.
I just found the story here.
Yeah. So it is an absolute. My main point about this is sending her to jail for 7 months is a fantastic thing, right? Yeah. Because it's a warning to everybody else. But with 4 million PIP claimants.
Right.
There aren't enough detectives in the Department of Social Security, right, or wherever, or Job Centre Plus, to track down how many of them have recovered, how many of them weren't that bad in the first place. So doing the occasional one is great, but there should be a sense that this is a crime of which you are going to get into a lot of trouble.
The problem with it is, right, is that because of all the things that are now done down the line, i.e. you don't actually see anybody, you can apply for this stuff and you can fill out a form, and as long as you know the right things to say, you'll get the money. Whereas, there was a story in the Telegraph yesterday about how one of Wes Streeting's final acts as the Department of Health boss was to tell doctors that they could work from home. And they could basically see patients online or via email. Didn't actually have to physically see any of them. And they're signing people off work. They're giving them, permission to go and seek PIP because they've got a doctor's note without even ever seeing them. So you don't even see them walking. You don't see them coming into your surgery. But you can just apply for as many benefits as you like. And that's the problem.
Well,
there's no checking device.
A few months ago, I went into my local clinic, where I met the doctor, and when we were talking about...
was this a private clinic?
No, it wasn't actually.
GP?
Well, I decided to actually, since I paid so much towards it, I might as well see whether it actually existed.
Good,
And
good for you.
Actually, she was fine. But when I pointed out what my issues were, which was the fact that I couldn't actually get my hand out of my pocket to pay for anything. No, she actually went online to reinforce what she thought the problem was.
Yeah.
And so I'm beginning to wonder. And I said to her, well, actually, does the AI, is this going to really affect your work? She said, well, I'm glad that I'm at the end of my career and not at the beginning of it. Because the truth about the matter is that much of what I do is now going to be supplanted by AI.
Well, this is what they say. They say that there's a lot that you can do medically, for example, diagnosing a particular set of symptoms on AI. You don't need to see a doctor, which is all very well until it goes wrong. Right?
Yeah, but doctors can go wrong anyway, can't they?
Well, I get conversations a lot with people who say, I went to the GP, and as I was sitting there for my allotted 3 minutes, whatever it is, the guy's Googling away to see what it is that he thinks that you've got wrong with you.
But I
could have done that.
No, you do that.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. If I go on it, the AI on Google now is off the scale.
Yeah, no, I never do it. Pooch loves AI, uses it all the time. I don't know if I told you, you might not have heard the story. Last week I had the misfortune of having to drive my son's car because my car went to be serviced. Right. He's got this rather nice second-hand low BMW sports car. Right?
Oh, right.
I drove it in the first day. Right, parked it, stopped it outside the gate. Went and waved my little gonzo thing in front. Went to get back in the car. It locked itself, and I'm going, what do I do now? It's like sitting outside with half of the back end of it in the road, engine running, key in the ignition. Can't get back into the car.
Oh.
So he comes out, and the first thing he did was he goes on to Grok. How do you unlock a BMW? And of course, they didn't have an answer. And eventually, one of his many skills was he brought a coat hanger out and he lifted and he basically broke into the car. And we got back in.
You're not talking about Pooch, the great train robber here.
That's him, the very same.
When he says, by the way, he's on holiday, you know what that means in that world, don't you?
Yeah, he's got away for a few days. But he claims it wasn't because he used to be a car thief, but he claims he used to have an old Toyota, which he was always locking himself out of, and he learned how to hook the old part of the hanger around it. But it's brilliant. But the thing is, everything to Pooch is solvable by going to AI and asking what to do.
It is true.
But
you go on ChatGPT.
I don't trust it.
Oh no, you go on ChatGPT and ask it any kind of even complicated commercial questions.
Yeah.
Honestly, the answer is, look, it could be completely wrong, but the answers, as I know them, are not only correct, it's the way it's all written, easily to understand, the headlines are all there. I fear for a lot of people's work. I do honestly. I would just wonder, all right, as you kindly point out, I may not be around to see the end game of AI. In fact, to be honest with you, I thought it was a road to going to the north, to be fair. But
I mean, surely one of the things that a man of your years would want is for AI to actually manage to extend your life and, ask it how you can do that.
You know what? There very few people will be voting for that. I can tell you that.
Absolutely.
That would be a very small club.
It would be a small club. What are we doing?
Adam's here.
Oh, Adam Cherry.
Yes.
Excellent. Adam Cherry.
Adam Cherry.
From Guido Fawkes, the very same. A very good morning to you, Adam. Sorry, I didn't realise it was you. I wouldn't have kept you waiting otherwise.
That's right.
Talking rubbish with Kelvin.
That's
Morning
not
to you
true,
both.
by
Good
the way.
morning, good morning.
That's not true, Adam, by the way. The idea of torturing Guido Fawkes is fantastic.
Now, listen, there's never been a better time to be a political journalist than now, it seems to me. We've got a leadership race that hasn't kicked off, but there's 3 people in it. We've got Andy Burnham claiming that he's the king of the north when he's not, that he's going to win a by-election to then become the next prime minister of this country because he knows how to fix the bus fares up in Manchester. And we've just lost him, have we?
No, he's all right.
And then we got Wes Streeting, a man who left his job as the head of the NHS, having completely ruined it. So what's happening? What is going on? What's going to happen the rest of this week?
What is happening? What a great question. Well, all eyes on the by-election, obviously. We've just published in the last few minutes Form's first video attack ad aimed at Makerfield. So the first anti-Burnham video that they've created. And it's really interesting. It reveals a lot about their strategy. Right. So they're painting him as the establishment stooge, right? Because obviously Burnham's appeal in the north is that he is not of Westminster. He's anti-establishment. He's very different. That's why he's building all this momentum. So how to Reform combat that? Well, if you watch the video, which is available on Guido now, you'll see that they point out his relationship with New Labour. Obviously, he was a minister, a Secretary of State under Gordon Brown. They point out that he was opposed to Brexit, which is obviously massive in that constituency. And he wanted a second referendum. He's U-turned on a bunch of these things. By the way, this guy's U-turning, at the speed of light. Only Keir Starmer, I think, is capable of doing more of these. He's U-turned on the fiscal rules, saying, we need to fund defence via more borrowing. Now he's saying, no, actually, we don't want to do that. Second referendum, no, that's not my position at all. A bunch of other things. I can't even remember the third one. So he keeps making these mistakes, these slip-ups very early. So I think Reform are trying to capitalise on that. You asked the broader question, what's going to happen? Well, I mean, obviously this by-election is a referendum entirely on Burnham himself, because whatever happens, I think Starmer is done. I think if Burnham wins, he waltzes into Parliament, 81 MPs say, job done, probably more than that, actually, a lot more than that. And he becomes Prime Minister instantly, which is incredible, but there we are. If he doesn't, which is in itself extraordinary because it reveals that there are no safe seats for Labour absolutely anywhere, then Starmer has to go as well. So whichever way you look at it, Starmer is toast. I did hear in the Times yesterday, they think, or rather Number 10 thinks Starmer can stagger on until 2027 at the very latest. I'd like to see the strategy for that. To me, it looks like I would imagine Burnham still wins this by-election. It's not nailed on, but I imagine he does. And then you have a coronation for him in September. But it's just so interesting, isn't it, guys? Because what was it? Less than 2 years ago, we had the adults in the room. We'll tread more lightly on your lives. No tax rises for working people, all this. And then you read the papers this morning and there's speculation that Reeves is trying to pressure, well, not more than speculation, frankly, briefings that Reeves is trying to pressure supermarkets to implement price controls. Yeah. How did this happen in, 18 months? It's unbelievable.
I know. But it's none of her business what supermarkets charge for eggs or bread or milk, I mean, maybe she should, as Kelvin said earlier, take some money off the energy costs or take some money off the fuel costs, make it actually cheaper for supermarkets to provide the food.
On this, I feel really that we are heading towards some kind of Cuban kind of control economy. in which creating wealth is something that bad people do, and we as a government do good things like this. Why don't they the idea of going to the supermarket, bosses, right? We have the most competitive pricing in Western Europe by a mile. I can remember, right, because unfortunately due to Father Time, I can remember when actually going to the supermarket took a quarter of your after-tax income, okay? It was massive. Today, actually, even on average earnings, it is a low number, okay? And if it isn't a low number, you get that actually funded by the government through benefits of one way or the other. We spend too much time talking about benefits and too little time talking about actually creating wealth, which is the only way we're ever going to get out of this problem. But they've now said to the supermarkets, we will drop some of these things we're going to bring in, these packaging taxes.
No, these are some of the things they've already brought in. But they're now saying you don't have to worry about that.
Okay,
right?
we'll scrap. Well, I'm sorry about that. We'll scrap them. What a bloody cheek that is, right? So actually, they don't really believe in any of it at all. Actually, this is a government moving around like this to say, actually, it's nothing to do with us. They just need to take the pain. I agree with you. If we're totally skinned, if people are completely broke and can prove they're broke, after all, they're living in council houses, which is probably running at 30% of the rent that normal, ordinary people pay, right? Why don't we turn around to the people in the council houses and say, yes, okay, we'll freeze the food if you start paying the right rent for your council housing, rather than us giving you a 3-bedroom place in East London for 394 quid. Thank you very much. My name's Kelvin McKenzie.
That should include by the way, that should also include the First Lady of Sierra Leone, who apparently has got a council house, right?
Sierra,
she's got a council house.
She's got a mansion house in Sierra Leone, right? And you basically get one of those if you're a politician in Sierra Leone in the Christmas cracker, right? And then over here, she's living like the First Lady. She's the First Lady of the East End, and she's living in a subsidised house because she has some kids or something.
Next she'll be the pearly queen of Whitechapel. You never know. But listen, the thing about all of these bozos in Labour is that, the Sun actually called for a general...
By the way, where's the balance?
There is no balance here. We don't have balance. No,
the bozos of Labour.
The bozos of Labour.
And now, coming on now, the bozos of Labour.
The bozos of Labour. Nobody wants them, right? It doesn't matter whether it's Andy Burnham, Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner, bloody Wes Streeting, Ed Miliband.
They can all bugger off.
They can all get lost, right? Even the Sun finally actually made an opinion the other week.
Oh, no!
And said we should have a general election.
Oh, fantastic.
Extraordinary.
Where do you think that idea came from? Not from the bozo of an editor, right, who's got a Liverpool season ticket, by the way.
No, absolutely not, no.
Anyway, we mustn't reveal that.
No, they've been watching this show because the people there have been told to keep an eye on me in case I slag them off. That's apparently one of the things.
Is that right? They actually had an opinion.
They have to watch this quite a lot, wouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, every time, it's the first time Kelvin's been on in a while. He's slagged news off for at least 20 minutes.
Yeah,
but is there a chance? Because I've been praying for this and I've been asking for it ever since they got in. Actually, can we have another general election to kick them out? Can you foresee that happening?
I was talking about this last week on Guido. I said if Burnham gets in, then he'll want his own mandate, or rather, he'll need his own mandate. He's going to want to junk that manifesto even more than Starmer already has tried to. I suspect he'll want to raise income tax. He'll want to implement some sort of nutty wealth tax. And also, if there's some sort of bond market crisis, which, if you've got Ed Miliband and Andy Burnham running the show, is not unlikely, is it? Then he might need some sort of protective firewall, and he'll have no choice but to go to the polls early. There's also a strategic view that perhaps doing that it will kneecap reform a little bit before they have a time to get fully organised. So I wouldn't rule it out. There's an sense that this is Turkey's voting for Christmas, because what Labour MP is going to want to vote to boot themselves out of their own seat. But I can see a scenario where it happens in 2027, given the right circumstances that I've just laid out. I don't think it's totally impossible.
No, I think a lot of people would like to see it, and you're right about getting on the hop with reform. So before they've actually managed to organise themselves, and before they've managed to get enough people to stand in all of the various constituencies they need to stand in. And what about one final question? I don't know whether you've looked at the Restore Britain candidate for Makenfield. But I'm seeing a lot of stuff on social media about how she's some kind of wealthy woman who that she's got a stable full of horses, and she's not exactly the working woman that they're claiming her to be. What do you know about her?
Haven't looked too closely at that yet. What I'm interested in doing, so I'm going to go up to Makerfield maybe next week or the week after, and what I want to know is what Restore are doing on the doorstep. What does this stuff cut through? Are they going to split the vote in any significant way? Because it's going to be close either way. So with the Tories, obviously an afterthought there, but with Restore and Reform both standing there, what does that do to the outcome? It could come down to a very few votes. So interesting that this is getting coverage already. It suggests that they're at least a presence.
I must say, whether somebody has got money or not, I don't want the skint running our country. We've now seen everybody saying, Burnham, I'm skint, Reeves, I was skint, somebody else was skint. Actually, they've ruined the bloody economy.
Yeah.
I'd rather have somebody who actually was not economically illiterate saying, actually, what we want to do is make people have more of their money. And make more of their decisions. And we want, as a government, to keep the hell out of it. Okay, the very skin, we'll see them right. If they're in the margin, work harder. Don't do a 4-day week, do a 7-day week. Do what is required. And actually, there is no such thing as work-life balance. Actually, you decide how much you want your family to earn, right? Let's go back to some kind of rather old-fashioned view. And I definitely don't want professional politicians, the Burnhams who've always looked upon your pay, my pay.
And they've only ever worked in the public sector,
he was a spag, right? He was a spag. And who's to say that so he's got some answer. What's his answer? He suddenly thinks in the wind is the sense that people haven't got quite enough of their money. Rather than saying, we'll give it to you, what they will say is, we'll take it from another section of society in order to subsidise a life which you can't, because of either your idleness or your stupidity, can't actually make for yourself. That is not the way forward for our country. We will end up even poorer at the end of this 5 years than we were under the dolts who ran the Conservatives.
Yeah, it's true.
Ladies and gentlemen, available. Right. This is not available as a podcast. How about that?
He's been away for a week, so he's got some extra mixed speeches to make. Anyway, well, listen, we'd love to talk to you when you're up in Makenfield, because or Makerfield, I should say, or Make or Breakerfield, as I call it.
Breakerfield.
Breakerfield.
That's good.
Yeah, it's not bad. You can have that one for free. And I'll charge you a couple of glasses of wine next time I see you. But no, listen, do keep in touch. Adam, good to see you. Best regards to my Lord Kempsell, who is your colleague there, of course. See what he's doing. He's gone a bit quiet lately. Is he all right?
Oh, he's fine. Yeah. You'll hear much more from him very shortly.
Okay.
He's
Right.
always keeping on top of things.
Got some kind of sabbatical or something like
Has
that.
he?
Well, I don't
Absolutely
know.
not, no.
Well, I'm trying to convince him to send us out to charter some kind of boat and take us all to the Chagos Islands, so that we can do a show from there. With Misley Mandarin, who's now finally stopped calling me Graham and now calls me Mike, which is great. Because we've got to know him very well. Anyway, Adam Cherry, very good to see you. Check him out on Guido Fawkes. Now, coming up, we're going to be talking to our next guest, Noel Wilcox, who's going to talk to us about the terrible state of affairs of what is now the new CSA. Child Maintenance Service, as it's now called, which apparently is just as useless as the CSA used to be. We're going to find out from him what we need to do to fix it. Right now, though, it's time, I think, for some more news, is it not, with Edward Hughes?
Good morning. I'm Eddie, the News Hughes, with your Wednesday briefing. Andy Burnham is heading back to Parliament via the Makerfield by-election. Polls suggest he could give Keir Starmer a proper headache, and Downing Street's apparently not thrilled. Because nothing says party unity like a leadership plot simmering away. In much happier news, Arsenal are finally Premier League champions again after 22 long years. Mikel Arteta's side did it the hard way, naturally, and North London is still bouncing. Well played, Gunners. On the cost of living front, the Treasury is politely asking supermarkets to freeze prices on milk, eggs and bread amid the Iran fallout. Voluntary, of course. Because nothing eases the weekly shop quite like a gentle request to the big lads. And finally, Reform UK has picked a plucky plumber to take on Burnham in the by-election. Should be an interesting scrap. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, tigers.
Thank you very much indeed. Edward Hughes there with the news. It's coming up to, 7 minutes past 9 already, crikey. And it's Wednesday today, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes the week goes so quickly. By the way, we're almost at 22 million views. Thank you very much indeed. I'm sure Kelvin's appearance will no doubt have bumped it up by a couple of 100,000. And we will. Yes, thank you very much indeed. I'll see you later on. Kelvin's leaving the building, as they say. We're looking at the story we haven't talked much about actually is the Burnham backlash, which is on the front page of the Daily Mail, because he once said that men who identify as women should be able to use female toilets, which is bad news for most parents, you'd have to say. We're going to talk to Noel Wilcox now, who represents paying parents. There's a huge problem in this country, which used to be something that was addressed by the CSA, if you remember that. And there was an organisation called Fathers for Justice who got very worked up about the fact that many, many men who broke up with their wives or partners and who then kept the children were kind of victimised on the way that they were made to pay money to their former partners and the amounts of money that they were allowed to keep for themselves. There's now a new system called the Child Maintenance Service, I think it is, the CMS, which apparently isn't working really that much better. So let's say a very good morning to Noel Wilcox to find out what's going on. Noel,
good morning, Mike.
Nice to see you.
Morning.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Is my characterisation right? The CSA, I seem to remember, was a terrible organisation which kind of chased people, it seemed, for the wrong reasons and chased the wrong people sometimes and let other people off and didn't really kind of help really anyone. So they've replaced it now, right, with the Child Maintenance Service, and from what I'm reading anyway, it doesn't seem to be any better.
No, I mean, this has really gone on for sort of 3 decades, really, Mike. So the Child Support Agency was set up back in the 90s, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So it was set up in the 90s that when parents separated, that there was some sort of mechanism that men or women could pay for their children. It's not just specific to men. There is women that has been affected by this. So I've been campaigning on this for about 4 or 5 years because I have been myself a victim of the Child Maintenance Service and their calculations. So, like I say, this goes back to the 90s. The Child Support Agency was closed down in 2012 for the
It feels to me like it was set up by the John Major government, was it?
It was actually under the Margaret Thatcher government.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. So it's actually under the Margaret Thatcher government. And like I say, the whole sort of idea or the concept of it was that the state was not going to pick up the bill for absent parents. So due to the high volume of complaints, the Child Support Agency was closed down. And then in 2012, the Child Maintenance Service was formed. So to make it really easy to understand, in essence, one company was closed down, another company was opened. It was the same staff, it was the same issues. However, they were given more draconian enforcement powers. Now, what really is concerning to me and where I've been speaking to a lot of paying parents, the testimonies that I've read, the statements that I've read, what really is alarming is the lack of judicial oversight on this, because there are safeguarding mechanisms that are in place when these laws or draconian measures are being implemented. Now, when the Child Maintenance Service was formed back in 2012, there was a select committee hearing just before it was actually formed. So as part of that, and we're going to watch the video in a minute, you had Noel Shanahan, who was the director of CMEC, which was the Child Maintenance Enforcement Commission. And he categorically states, and this is really alarming, and I think you'll be quite alarmed when you see this, he said that the Child Support Agency was routinely inflating incomes by 300%. That, to me...
and based on what? On what metric were they using for that?
So the metric was that they were trying to mimic the HMRC model. However, the HMRC, once they caught up with whoever it was that they were chasing, they would then, once you came forwards with the information, they would subsequently sort out the arrears. But the Child Maintenance Service wasn't doing that. So for your viewers, in essence, if the Child Maintenance Service wanted you to pay £100 per week, they would inflate your income to £300 a week, so you would come forwards with your pay information. But as a consequence of that, that £200 that was inflated grew in the arrears balances.
Right.
And then there was
so you would end up owing that, effectively, even though you couldn't afford to.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So I mean, some paying parents were paying, you know, the amount that they were being told to pay,
Right.
which so that could have been highly inflated. But as a side effect of those inflated arrears, the arrears balance grew to a staggering £3.8 billion.
Wow.
So what we'll do is, if we just watch that video now, so that all of your viewers can actually see it, and then they can make from it what they want.
Okay, let's have a look.
I'll try anyway.
Oh, hang on. Well, we've not got it.
Wait.
So who actually administrates this child maintenance service?
So-
under which government department is it?
So the Department for Work and Pensions is responsible for the child maintenance service.
Okay.
And like I say, I mean, they've been doing this now for sort of 3 decades. Now, from all of the testimony that I've read, everybody that I've spoken to, for me, the post office scandal is just a warm-up in comparison to what's actually going on here.
Yeah.
So
you're talking about an awful lot of people being affected by it?
Yeah, these are tens of thousands of people that have been affected by these calculations.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Mike, we live in a society now where the public, we just accept all of these scandals, you know, from the post office to the blood to all of these scandals.
Yeah.
I mean, when isn't there a scandal now?
Right.
You know, and obviously we keep being told that, lessons will be learned. And they're just not being learned, and they're just continuing to do the same thing over and over again, and they're very good at doing it.
So there'll be people watching this right now going, yeah, I'm paying this money out. They keep telling me I should have been paying more, but they told me that wasn't really actually the case, and it's just a figure that you don't have to actually meet every week. But then it's still accruing as a debt almost to them, so that they're, after 2 or 3 or maybe 4 years, they're owing a lot more money than they thought they did.
Absolutely. I mean, hitting the nail on the head there. I mean, you know, the very alarming thing is that when this arrears balance grew to sort of 3.8 billion, the National Audit Office, ever since that committee hearing, has refused to sign off the accounts of the Child Maintenance Service.
Right.
Because the National Audit Office have been stating that this money's not owed. So when they take a payment, it's not going out. So millions is being collected, because I've read all these reports, millions is being collected but not passed on to the receiving parents. Then you see a lot of the receiving parents online, you know, who are complaining that they're not getting money. That is not down to a paying parent, you know, who's avoiding the system.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, there are some fathers, mothers who do avoid.
There will be some,
yeah. Of course, I'm not saying that.
But usually, like all of these things, the people who don't pay tend to be the ones that they don't go after, because they go after the ones who pay in a bit, because they know that they can get you to pay more. Whereas if, you know, it's a bit like the child sort of safety officers and people like that, you know, the child welfare officers, they only go to the homes of people that they're not frightened of. They don't go to the homes of terrible, horrible criminals and ghastly people who beat up their kids, because it's too scary. And so they don't actually solve anything. All they do is they go after the sort of the decent people and get them into trouble, it seems to me, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I said to you that we don't have any judicial oversight, there's actually an act of law. Now, you're probably not going to believe me. There's actually an element of the Child Support Act that actually precludes the justices from checking the calculations of the Child Maintenance Service.
Really?
Yeah, it's actually
What you
written in
mean?
law.
So whatever the HMRC DWP assessment is, that's it.
That is it.
Nobody can interfere with that.
Nobody can interfere with that. And then what's granted
So as an individual, you can't appeal it either.
You can't appeal it. The only mechanism that you have is to go to a tribunal. Now, tribunals are very, very limited in their jurisdiction. So unfortunately, once a liability order is actually issued by a magistrate's court, and many parents have said the same to me over and over again, that they go to court with all of the evidence and their evidence is refused. I mean, that's very alarming.
It's very undemocratic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Any chance of getting this?
I can't promise anything.
Oh, okay. All right then. Let's have a look.
Outcomes that you're trying to achieve,
The
then I'm
1.31.
Then it's almost certainly accurate.
no, we're
I
not.
think this one here is
reason being,
where the National
as I
Audit Office
understand,
is stating
your
that
correspondent
parents
there
are pursued
are
for
talking
debts where
about
there's no
historic
evidence to
The
substantiate that
National
they
Audit
owe.
Office and the Controller and Auditor General has
So-
qualified
All right, hang on,
the,
because I'm not sure
accounts for
if you
what-
can hear you at the moment. Oh, sorry.
No,
What's happening?
keep talking, go on.
Oh, okay. So I'm not sure. That's. It looks like a Lib Dem MP. Is that Lib Dem MP? What's his face? Can't remember his name. So what was that we just saw? That was a select committee.
So that was a select committee hearing recently where the National Audit Office were present, and who you just saw there was Joshua Redway, who was the director of the National Audit Office. And the committee,
is it Stephen Timms?
Stephen Timms, that's it. Yeah, Stephen Timms, who's leading the committee.
Yeah. So he's asking this guy questions as to how he's running it.
Basically, what he's asking is are these assessments, because he's received a lot of complaints, are these assessments accurate?
Right.
Joshua Redway is saying no, that they're not satisfied that these maintenance assessments are accurate.
Right.
Yeah. So,
but the National Audit Office presumably can't do anything about it because they don't have the power to change the way that it's done, do they? Or do they?
They don't. They don't have the power. I mean, all that they simply do is report back to the Treasury.
Right.
Yeah. So, whoever the Chancellor is at the time, obviously the reports would go back to them. And like I say, it's very alarming that the National Audit Office, and you've got the director there of the National Audit Office, who is clearly stating on the record that parents are pursued for debts where there's no evidence to substantiate that they owe that money.
Right.
I mean, that is very, very alarming.
Yeah.
Then, obviously, these figures go in front of the magistrates' courts. The liability order is then issued. Off the back of that liability order, you have no appeal mechanism to it. And once that order is formed, it can't be challenged in any court.
Right.
Any punitive measures that the Child Maintenance Service are pursuing, that liability order will be enforced, regardless of whether you've got the evidence to say that you don't owe that money.
For a period of time, or until the child is 18, or how long does it go for?
Well, the liability order opens up an armoury of enforcement powers. And what those enforcement powers are is that they can go into your bank account and take a lump sum from your bank account.
Right. At any time?
At any time.
Right.
They can go in and take any amount of money without a court order, which is, yet again, very, very alarming.
Yeah.
They can send you to prison, revoke your passport and your driving licence, as well as placing a charge on your property as well.
Right.
So they can actually force a sale of your property for a debt that you don't owe.
Right.
And like I say, there is no judicial oversight over this. MPs, ministers are very, very well aware of this issue that is going on, yet no action is taken. If anything, the Child Maintenance Service has been given more and more powers.
Right.
I can't get my head round it.
No, it doesn't sound right. So what can be done about it? What are you trying to get done about it?
Well, I mean, what I'm campaigning on now is what we need an investigation into what's going on, and it has to be completely independent, a completely independent investigation where paying parents who have paid these astronomical amounts of money can come forwards with the evidence. And that will be investigated whether or not they actually owed that money.
Right.
I mean, recently the BBC, I don't know if you saw the article, but the BBC have actually put out an article regarding a specific case that I was made aware of by Mr. Hammond.
Yeah.
And Mr. Hammond, his case closed 7 years ago from 2020. So it was around sort of 2013 when his case had closed. And he, 7 years later, had £20,000 removed from his bank account.
And given what to the mother of his children?
No, the money was never given to the mother.
Where did the money go?
Exactly. Where did the money go?
So they're taking money and not handing it to the people that's supposed to get it. That's weird.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Mr. Hammond actually spoke to his ex-wife. Obviously, it was a fractious relationship, but he did actually speak to his ex-wife, and she said she wasn't aware that this money was going to be taken. Now, the very, very alarming thing about it, he's a maths teacher and his attention to detail, Mike, is extraordinary. And he did a series of subject access requests, which I've seen.
Yeah.
And for 5 months, they were actually monitoring his bank account, the DWP.
Right.
When his property was sold, they then came in and took the £20,000 from his account.
Right.
And that's what the BBC have actually recently reported on. Staggering.
That is ridiculous, isn't it?
Yes.
So has he got a legal representation now?
He eventually got the money back after over a year.
Okay.
Over a year.
And did they explain why they'd taken
it? No. They don't have to give you any, there is no accountability. It's a completely rogue. As far as I'm concerned, the DWP is acting completely rogue.
So weird. Such a strange story.
Comment?
Got a few comments coming in, have we? Okay, let's have a look. This is one from Arundel. I used to prosecute for the CSA. It was a mess, and I'd sometimes have to stop the CSA officer speaking to the defendant. It needs to go back to the court in children's proceedings. But I suppose the problem with that is that the courts would say, we haven't got the bandwidth, we haven't got the time, or we haven't got the people to go through all of these. Rest in peace to all the men who've died due to the CMS giving them fictional arrears, says Lottie. Yeah, I'm sure that's true too. Let's see, this one from the cover. The CSA was useless. My ex-partner said he was paying himself a minimum wage when he owned a business. Personal drawings or dividends didn't count as income apparently, so he didn't have to pay a cent. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody sort of said at the time that the CSA didn't work for either side of the equation, really. But it sounds as though this doesn't work for people either. Just do an agreement with your ex, never let the government get involved. Well, not everybody can do that, though, can they? I mean, that's the reason why some people end up presumably going to this kind of arbitration service to recover some money, because unfortunately, some people are not very good at sharing their resources with their ex.
No, I mean, look, in my view, the starting point really has to be 50-50 shared care. You know, you were alluding to the fact, and this is not my department, Mike, but you're alluding to the facts regarding Fathers for Justice, who obviously have their own campaign that they've got going regarding the family courts. And, you know, I think I read data somewhere that 3.8 million fathers do not see their children through court orders, which is yet again staggering. So what we are actually seeing and what we are witnessing is the actual destruction of the family unit. Rather than encouraging families to work together, you know, we've got many mechanisms in place that actually destroy the family unit. And ultimately, which is what my concern is it's the children who are actually being affected by this, because you've got the parents who are absolutely at war with each other. You know, one's trying to get money from the other parent. And it's really spiraling out of control. So, I mean, the courts are on the verge of sort of breaking point. So I think really, you know, what a good starting point for this would be 50-50 shared care. And we've got the financial remedies court, and that should be used a lot more as opposed to the actual family courts, because they are specialists in, so something that might take the family court maybe 6 to 8 months to deal with, you know, the family remedies court, financial remedies court could probably deal with it maybe in one hearing. So it doesn't drag on.
Which would make it cheaper
and on.
for people as well, presumably.
It would just make it a lot cheaper. I mean, the system has just got to be a lot fairer. So incomes are currently assessed on your gross earnings. So they don't even take into consideration your rent, your mortgage. It's just 12.5%, I think it is, for your first child. And in the current climate that we're witnessing at the moment, where everybody is struggling, we've got fuel prices that have gone through the roof. You know, people are just not earning that sort of money. So to go in at a gross amount is very, very harsh in my view. And it's putting so many people under pressure. Because of this pressure, there was actually a report that was written by Brian Hudson, who is very academic. And he did a series of freedom of information requests to the Department for Work and Pensions. And in that report, he actually established that 5 paying parents, very, very sadly, are taking their lives every single day because of these fictitious debts that are being enforced on them, because the financial, I mean, I have spoken to so many paying parents who are absolutely at breaking point. They're saying to me last week that they were going to take their lives. Something has to be done about this. We need rapid intervention from ministers to get involved in this, because this is absolutely destroying lives.
It's a very good subject. Noel, thank you very much indeed for coming in to talk. It's a complicated subject, but this from Andrew. CMS invented £78,000 of arrears for me. They then sent fraudulent court summonses, then drafted a fraudulent court order that the court have no record of. It sounds completely bonkers, this, doesn't it? I worked at the family courts and the father's got a really bad deal most of the time, says Patricia. And one here from Net, who says, glad somebody's doing something about this maintenance scandal. Causes so much stress and mental health issues for decent men that are trying to do the right thing. Yeah.
Last one.
Last one. Try working a few months as a barrister in family matters. It takes its toll. The only thing worse is prosecuting for a collapsing CPS. I feel sick thinking about it. It wrecked me, says Arandora. Yeah, it's obviously a big problem, this. We'll keep in touch with us, Noel, if you can, and we'll see what, I mean, if there's anything we can do, I don't know if there is, but if there's anything we can do to talk to MPs or politicians about it, you know, that might be something we can do, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Reform at the moment, you know, are the only political party that's actually talking about this.
Yeah.
You know, Labour and Conservatives have just completely ignored what's been going on. You know, and
it's obviously a failing system. Or a failed system, even.
It's definitely, yeah, 100% it's a failed system and it's just not working.
Yeah.
Regardless of what measures you introduce, what enforcement powers that you, it's not about enforcement powers, it's about mediation, getting two parents to actually sit down together and work
and
in
agree
the best,
with what the amount of money should be.
work in the best interests of your children.
Yeah.
Yeah, all this fighting is, and you know, is this one of the reasons why we've got the chaos in our society that we have at the moment? 76% of young men who are currently in prison at the moment all come from broken homes.
Yeah.
That is a statistical fact.
Yeah.
So, like I say, we need systems and mechanisms that's going to encourage parents to work together.
Yeah.
Put all your differences to one side. You've got to sit down. You've got to mediate correctly, form, you know, a bond or some sort of legal agreement between both of you, and that should be it.
It should be easy to do.
It should just be very easy to do. It's a very overcomplicated system.
Yeah, sounds like it. Noel Wilcox, thank you very much indeed. Good to talk to you. We've got John Edwards to talk to coming up in a little while. But first, should we have some news with Edward Hughes?
Good morning. I'm Eddie, the News Hughes, with your Wednesday briefing. Andy Burnham is heading back to Parliament via the Makerfield by-election. Polls suggest he could give Keir Starmer a proper headache, and Downing Street's apparently not thrilled. Because nothing says party unity like a leadership plot simmering away. In much happier news, Arsenal are finally Premier League champions again after 22 long years. Mikel Arteta's side did it the hard way, naturally, and North London is still bouncing. Well played, Gunners. On the cost of living front, the Treasury is politely asking supermarkets to freeze prices on milk, eggs and bread amid the Iran fallout. Voluntary, of course. Because nothing eases the weekly shop quite like a gentle request to the big lads. And finally, Reform UK has picked a plucky plumber to take on Burnham in the by-election. Should be an interesting scrap. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Can't find it.
And now it's time for this.
Oh, wait, I lost it.
So, things have reached a pretty poor point, you right? Not only are we now in a situation with a government without a leader, in a race for the leader's job, not to have started yet. We don't know whether Andy Burnham's going to be the next Prime Minister. We don't know whether Keir Starmer's going to stay in his job. We don't know whether Rachel Reeves is going to stay in her job. We don't know whether Wes Streeting is going to challenge for the leadership. We don't know whether Ed Miliband is going to end up doing it. But what we do know is that this government goes from bad to worse. Today, they came out and said, forget about the price of petrol, forget about the price of fuel, forget about the price of energy. What we should talk about is the price of food. Rachel Reeves, Richard III, as we like to call her, has decided that she's going to lean on supermarkets to make life easier for ordinary people in Britain. She's going to say to the supermarkets, you need to freeze the cost of food because it's getting too expensive. But there's a reason why the cost of food is going up. There's a reason why inflation is going up. And that's because the price of everything is going up. And the reason the price of everything is going up is because everything's getting more expensive. And the reason it's more expensive is because this government is making it more and more difficult for businesses to make a profit. And so they have to put the prices up to try and keep themselves afloat. Every single week, we see businesses going out of business. We see particularly hospitality companies closing down. Last week, we saw the Toby Carvery losing thousands of jobs. The week before that, we saw, Claire's Accessories going down on the high street. We've seen one chain of food suppliers after another, Spaghetti House, the Real Greek, restaurants that people used to take their families to because they would like a day out and it wasn't too expensive. So many places now going out of business because they simply cannot afford to make a profit anymore. Why? Because Rachel Reeves put the price of everything up. She put the minimum wage up, which meant that the people who were employed in all of those businesses couldn't be employed anymore. They were too expensive. Or at least if they were employed, they worked for fewer hours. They put the price up of national insurance, which made it even more difficult for businesses to make ends meet because they had to give more money to the government, more taxes to the government. So when Rachel Reeves comes to the supermarkets and says, could you please freeze the prices of milk? Could you please freeze the prices of eggs and freeze the prices of bread? That doesn't just have an effect on the supermarkets, it has an effect on the people that supply the milk and the eggs and the bread. And so if you're a farmer, not only are the government trying to steal your inheritance from you and make it impossible for you to pass on your business, your family business, to members of your family, they're also now telling you that you can't put the price of milk up, of eggs up, even though the price of producing those things is going up thanks to the rise in price of energy, which is also down to the government. Because make no mistake, this is not about the Iran war. This is about how the government could make it easier for people by reducing the cost of fuel. They could do that in a stroke because more than 50% of the cost of fuel in this country is tax. And the government could quite easily do away with some of it in order to make it cheaper for people, which would make it cheaper for business, which would mean that you wouldn't have to freeze the price of food because it wouldn't go up. It's basic economics, which Rachel Reeves doesn't seem to have a clue about. I don't want to live in a country where the government tells me how much eggs should cost. I don't want to live in a country that tells me how much milk I should be buying or how much bread I should be paying for. It's a complete and utter shambles. They don't know how to run a whelk stand. They don't know how to run an economy. Andy Burnham, who is the next man in line to be king of Britain, if you like, in Downing Street, hasn't got a clue. He spent £100 million of people's money, taxpayers' money, to cap bus fares. So when you say the bus fares are cheaper in Manchester, it's not because they've made them cheaper, it's because you're paying for them as a taxpayer. He spent £200 million on a clean air project, which didn't go anywhere. They wanted to put in cycle lanes, put in bus lanes. They wanted to make it more difficult for people to drive around. They wanted to put congestion charge in. None of it worked. Andy Burnham doesn't have a clue. And Rachel Reeves doesn't have a clue either. They used to say, let them eat cake. You might as well say, let them eat bread and milk and eggs. Bottom line, these people don't know what they're doing. And so therefore, all I can say is the sooner we can get them all out, the better. Let's have a general election. Let us not buy into any of this nonsense. And that's my meltdown for the day. So, we're now going to talk to John Edwards, who is a man from the Free Speech Union, I understand. John, very good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm not actually from the Free Speech.
Oh, you're not?
No, I'm an independent councillor.
Oh, right, okay.
Sandhurst, yeah.
My apologies.
But they are representing.
They are representing you, right? Because you've got a problem with some migrants, I understand, in your neck of the woods. Tell us about the story.
Yeah. So I'm independent councillor John Edwards for Sandhurst, and last year in April, the Bracknell Forest Council started housing about 300 Afghans with the MOD in a local 4-star hotel.
Okay.
But not just that, they get dedicated NHS on-site healthcare. They get something called wraparound care, which is where they're getting, you know, all the goodies that you'd normally expect. So they're getting food, they're getting taxis. There's been family trips out, and they just general support, essential goods bought for them.
And is this in a kind of a sort of a former military camp type scenario?
No, it's in a 4-star hotel.
It's a 4-star hotel,
yeah, which is right in the middle of a shopping centre.
Okay.
But then they also get what's called move-on support. So they're able to, once they leave the hotel, get supported into the private rental sector. So we were told this on a briefing call, and I quickly realised that this is very different level of service to what residents get, you know, what benefits the residents get. So I started asking, you know, important questions about the fairness of the scheme, you know, raising it, expressing that residents don't get this, letting people know the level of care that was given. But instead of answering those questions, what happened is there was complaints made about me by a Lib Dem councillor and anonymous complaints, which we later learnt out were staff at the council. But so instead of answering my questions, the council then launched a year-long investigation into me for the charges were discrimination, bullying. I don't really understand the bullying one. I think it was bullying of the Afghans, presumably.
Yeah.
And breaching confidentiality for showing the level of accommodation within this hotel. And they put me through a year-long investigation. Within that investigation, council was accusing me of racism. One even said I'd been reported to the police. One compared me in the chamber to the murderer of Joe Cox.
Really?
Yeah.
That's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, just totally juxtaposed my position, said that, what happened to Joe Cox, we've seen this kind of hatred before and it led to the murder of Joe Cox. So I just thought, how can scrutinising a resettlement scheme be comparable to that? Anyway, after the year-long investigation, which cost taxpayers £16,000, the independent investigator cleared me of all charges. And not only that, he said he expressed his surprise. He said there was little to no evidence. I'm actually surprised this was brought forward. The council gave no evidence. But instead of accepting that charge, that decision, that report, the council then went back and came up with this new charge that no one had ever complained about and it hadn't come up in this 9-month investigation, which was hours and hours and hours of time. But I had somehow brought my role into disrepute for telling residents the truth when they didn't want me to, despite the information already being deemed in the public domain and not being confidential. So what they're saying, Mike, and this is so important now, that an officer, i.e. a civil servant at local government level, can tell an elected politician not to discuss or scrutinise a certain policy, even though it's already in the public domain, it's not confidential, just because they don't want them to. And that is not a democracy. That is an attack on free speech. It's an attack on democracy. That would be a technocracy. If civil servants
it also
could tell
tells you
people
that
what they
civil
can and can't
servant
discuss.
is a political appointment in a way, because they're not being neutral, are they? They're taking a view based upon some ideology that they think that you're somehow harming, because you shouldn't be talking about it. In the same way that whenever anybody says, why are you talking about migrants? They're all wonderful people. They should all be allowed to come to this country. We should all be welcoming them in. And you go, well, that's all fine, but these are the facts actually of what they're doing and what's been going on. And this nonsense that you shouldn't be allowed to talk about things or you shouldn't be allowed to say certain things is ludicrous. And in your case particularly, it's actually dangerous, I would say. For them to try and stop you from saying these things.
Well, why should residents not know the truth? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, even if it's uncomfortable truth. But you're absolutely right. I believe we've been conditioned for the past 20, 25 years to think we cannot talk about these things. And it infiltrates its way even into these systems. So there's several independent people that come in, people, who are paid for by the borough council. And the independent investigator cleared me, but as soon as there was a little bit of pushback, he's worried about cancelling. My opinion is he's worried about catching council culture off me, and him being dragged into this. So he just immediately does a 180 on his report. So now what happens is they said you can either apologise publicly on a live streamed thing, in the
apologise for what?
For telling the truth, when they didn't want me to,
Yeah.
or you go to a hearing. Now, and the hearing is conducted by my political opponents.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's conducted by the Labour, Lib Dem, and Green councillors who have been calling me racist, and they will get to decide my fate. So you can see within this investigation, the evidence was withheld from me. I wasn't allowed to see the evidence against me while they were. I wasn't allowed to know who my accusers were. And now I'm being tried by my accusers. The whole thing, I think, is a sham. And I don't have any Article 6 rights, which is the right to a fair hearing. Now, that's because you're explicitly not allowed them in the law, but Bracknell Forest has taken that to the nth degree and just really not allowed them. And then also I'm not allowed to speak about this. So then, anyway, these councillors are now going to decide my fate at a hearing, which is why the Free Speech Union took up my case, and without them, I would have had absolutely no one. So they're backing me now, and they're supporting this outrageous attack on free speech, and we're going to hearing, and there's a crowdfunder as well, because the council are spending taxpayers' money against this. They've got in-house solicitors working on it. I've obviously got nothing and have to fund my defence myself. So there's a
Yeah.
crowdfunder which you can find on my X page, which is John_Edwards UK, or you can find it on the FSU page as well.
Okay.
If people wanted to donate to that, that'd be greatly appreciated. But yeah, that's the situation.
Right. So they're basically punishing you for one, telling the truth because they don't like the view that you've given. It's not a view; it's just a collection of facts.
Yeah.
But they've also, presumably, they won't be happy about you coming here and talking about it. Will
No,
they?
I guess not.
Right.
No.
So they'll add that to the charge list of things that you shouldn't have done.
Well,
presumably.
I don't know if they'll do that. They are not happy about it. They're putting out statements that what I've said. Sort of just basically trying to counter what I'm saying. But they do it in a way with institutional speak, vague slogans, which give the impression that what I'm saying is not right. But actually, they've never said, this is information isn't right, because it is true. And also, Mike, what's important for your viewers to know is that I've always said these Afghans should be treated with respect and dignity.
Yeah.
This isn't about them. This is about an unfair policy.
Yeah.
So, people need to know, actually, the extent of these policies, the level of care and level of support Afghans are getting when residents don't get these. So, like, for instance, I'm dealing with residents now who are in social housing.
Yeah.
They're waiting absolutely years on the housing waiting list. There's 1.3 million people in the UK waiting for social housing. 169,000 children are in temporary accommodation. I'm dealing with a veteran, British veteran, who also served in Afghanistan. He and his wife and his 2 young daughters, 3 and 5, are living in a 1-bedroom flat. The mould is so bad that it's hospitalised his 2 young daughters.
Wow.
He has had...
And that's a private landlord situation, is
No,
it?
this is in social housing.
Okay.
Yeah, with a housing association, which the council is in control of.
So why are they not fixing the mould? I mean, surely that's the first thing they should be doing. I mean,
Well,
we hear all the time about how dangerous that can be for respiratory disease.
Yeah, and
for
it's not
children.
a case of wiping it down because it comes back within
Right.
days. Okay, so
Yeah.
there's a fundamental problem in the property,
Right.
mainly because of moisture, because there's 4 of them in one room.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what you have to remember, and they've had essentially no help. This guy also served in Afghanistan. Where is his 4-star hotel?
Yeah.
Where is his wraparound care? Where is his on-site medical team? Where is
Yeah.
his support into the private rental sector? He's been waiting, as 1.3 million people have been, years waiting for a social housing. Afghans come in, they get put up in a hotel, and then they get supported into the private rental sector. And what that means is that they get their rents paid for.
Yeah.
They get bridging rent. They get their deposits paid for. The properties are refurbished. They get white goods bought for them.
Yeah.
This is a total outrage.
Yeah.
And what gets me so angry is that our institutions are effectively lying to us. Now, Bracknell Forest Council haven't lied, but I reckon their admissions by not telling the whole truth and then trying to silence me and punish me for telling the truth is actually incredibly misleading.
And it's going to get worse, isn't it? Because we've got the government saying we're going to move people out of hotels, and that's supposedly a good thing, they say, but in fact it isn't, because they're going to move them into houses of multiple occupancy, HMOs, whatever, in those same circumstances where they get everything paid for. I don't know what the time frame is on that, but say, for example, if somebody gets moved into a social housing situation as an Afghan refugee with a family, how long do they get that paid for before they're told you now have to go and get a job and pay for your own rent?
Well, there isn't a time scale, but we're confusing slightly two things. So these aren't refugees. These came over on that secret.
These are the secret ones,
Afghan resettlement scheme. So part of it was secret, some of it was public.
But in a way, it's not any different, because many of those people who came under the secret scheme, we know were possibly members of the Taliban, because the data leak made it possible for them, or made it impossible for them, to identify exactly who was on the right side, if you like. And so they just brought everybody, didn't they? They just went, right, everyone can come. So we're not even going to bother vetting anyone. We're just going to say you can all come and you can all pretend that you were part of the British fighting force. And of course, what are you going to say? Oh, I wasn't. You're not going to say that, are you? You're going to go, yeah, I was there. Yeah, I was with the 12th Fusiliers or something. It's ridiculous.
It is. Now, my position is that we should help people who have actually served our armed forces. There was about 1,800 interpreters, and I think that might even be stretched from reports I'm getting from soldiers. But 40,000 have come over. Now, Bracknell Forest Council presented this as, right, this is, as like a checkmate, this is just for the brave people who served our armed forces. So if you ever speak up against this, you're a bigot, right? And you're morally wrong. Now, I think we should help those people, but what happens is this scheme, which was never said, was expanded to the Afghan citizen resettlement scheme, which included citizens deemed vulnerable by the UN. That can include women. Well, that's basically all women then in Afghanistan. Human rights activists, LGBT people. So this scheme is a lot wider than they actually made clear to residents. And it isn't just the armed forces. In fact, when I pressed them through a freedom of information request, the council, okay, you've implied that most of these people served armed forces. How many did? How many came through what's called the ARAP pathway and not the ACRS pathway for citizens? And they said, we don't know. So then I asked the MOD. I said, how many came through the ARP in Bracknell? And they said, we're not going to tell you. But then I did a freedom of information request to find out how much translation services have they spent. And they spent just last year £75,000 on translation services. Now that at least raises the question, why are they spending such significant sums on translation services for people who are allegedly interpreters for the British Army?
That's a very good point.
Yeah, so I think the Afghans who serve should be helped, but this is much wider.
Yeah.
And also, what I've asked for is parity. So don't give these people, the on-site healthcare, moved into the private rental sector, wraparound care. My residents, if they're on universal credit, have to pay for everything out of that.
Right.
They don't get all these extras on top. So we need these schemes to be fair. Pointing out that these schemes are unfair is doing my job. Right? That's what elected representatives are supposed to do. That is not being divisive. What's divisive is these divisive policies.
Yes. Well, again, this is what we get out of Downing Street, isn't it? All the time, where they talk about people, spreading hate and, causing disturbances in society by raising issues and by talking about things which they shouldn't be talking about. And that's how we've got to the society we've now got, which is a very divided society, because people like yourself trying to do the right thing, ordinary people who live in all different parts of the country are seeing what's going on before their very eyes, like we've seen in places like Epping, where they've said, look, we don't want all of these migrants in this hotel. And they only started demonstrating because somebody committed a crime, and yet they were told, it's nothing to do with you.
You're racist.
You're a racist. You shouldn't be out here making these people feel uncomfortable.
But what about how it makes me feel?
Exactly. How does it make us feel? I mean, there was a case I remember a few months ago of a guy who was told he couldn't put a flag anywhere near a migrant hotel because it might distress them. And there was a police officer telling the guy, and you're like, it's not about, I don't want to, wave English flags everywhere, but I also don't want to have my neighbourhood taken over by people who are living free on the state, which I'm paying for, and I'm meanwhile struggling to feed my kids. That's just not right, is it? There's something wrong with that.
It's totally wrong. I totally agree. And it's got a lot worse under Labour, but there was no other councillor speaking up about this. So I think the tide is turning. I think people feel empowered to talk about these things. But the reason I did it is because, I used to be a Conservative and I stepped down from about 2 years ago because I asked them about this issue. I said, are we going to oppose migrant hotels in Bracknell? And they said, no, we're not going to blanket because there might be some people who support them, and they started talking about Liberal Democrat voters. And I just thought these schemes are so unfair, they're so un-British, that we have to be opposing them. And that no one else has opposed it at all. Because I think people are just, as you're sort of alluding to, are just too scared, or have been. They might lose their
you can't
job.
speak out. If you do what you've done, for example, in many companies in this country, and you speak up, even if you just say something at the coffee machine or something, you'll be sort of ostracised because people will go, oh my God, in the same way that they recoil when they hear, the word Nigel Farage or they hear reform, and they go, oh my goodness me. I actually saw somebody on Facebook that I know, who's from Wales, who put out a message on her Facebook page that said, if any of you people voted reform, please unfriend me now. And you're kind of going, what's wrong with you? What are you, a child? Well, you can't have a different opinion to somebody? Nigel Farage is not the devil, right? He happens to be on the right side of a political conversation that we're all having. And why shouldn't he be? He's allowed to be that man. He's allowed to have those views. And he's right in so many ways, as you are. You don't want these, how long is this going to go on for? How long is this hotel going to be occupied? by these people.
not
And when
shot
is it going to
defence.
end? It's never going to end, is it? Because even if they house all of them and settle all of them, it will then be used for the next wave of people that are coming in.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And it's slightly off topic, but is related to what you're saying, is that the left, I don't like using that term, but like Labour and Liberal Democrats have tried to convince us that British values are vague terms like being kind and being nice, and being inclusive. But actually those aren't British values at all.
No.
British values are rooted in democracy, freedom of speech, the right to a fair trial and equality under the law. And Labour is increasingly against all four of these things. You know, they're trying to overturn Brexit without a referendum. They're cancelling elections. They're definitely against free speech. We see two-tier policing, two-tier justice. I'm now not getting a fair hearing. Those are British principles, not vague terms like being kind. Yeah, so I don't know how long we got, but I just wanted to stress, this is so important that I win this case. Because if I don't, this will set a blueprint for other councils. And a precedent that civil servants, officers, unelected bureaucrats can tell politicians what they can and cannot discuss, what they can and cannot scrutinise, what information residents can and cannot know, even if there's nothing confidential about this information. So that's why it's so important, because this is happening now. Like, this isn't just Tommy Robinson being silenced. This is your elected representatives quite literally being silenced and punished for talking about controversial policies that residents would expect to know about.
Yes, exactly right. I'm totally on your side, as I'm sure everybody watching this will be. The question is, you know, who's on the other side? That's the difficult bit, isn't it? Got some comments coming in. The Be Nice Brigade are communist collaborators in disguise, says Ham. Yeah, absolutely right. Bracknell, the place where the mayor was jailed for covering up for her rapist son. Well, I didn't know that. But, you know, there's almost a double standard, isn't there? Ops pressed send too soon. James, a man with integrity, says Ados. Yeah, absolutely. All councils are now cash-sucking, robotic, dead-eyed control freaks. They tell us what to do. It ought to be the other way around. I think that's also an overbearing sort of part of the world in which we now live, is that, you know, I know that you're a public servant and obviously you're probably not like this, but there's so many people who now think that it's their right to dictate to us what we should be doing and how we should be living. And it's like, hang on a minute, we're paying you.
Yeah, totally.
We pay your salary. You actually should be doing what we want you to do, as opposed to you telling us. One here from Debbie says, I live in Bracknell and over the past few years it's got worse. The local MP told me to my face that we don't house migrants. Well, they just tell lies. You get this at work. The policy is not UK law, but until they sack you, you can be accused by an anonymous source, banned from consulting your colleagues, etc. That's the problem. We have, I don't know where this came from, this kind of, I often ask the question, where did we get this country suddenly moving to the left? I mean, we used to be a quite conservative country with a small c, which was, you know, all of the conservative values that you think about. You know, you have you look after your home, you clean, you make your garden nice and clean. You know, you're kind to people. You might take somebody in if you want, as a you know, who's down on their luck. You know, all of those things that we used to be good at and famous for, welcoming. You know, we now seem to have a ruling class who want to keep us from finding out the truth. Who want to not share with us what they're doing. They don't want to ask us what we'd like. They want to tell us what to do. You know, all the way from telling you to drive at 20 miles an hour to, you know, what to eat, what not to eat.
We've taken our eye off the ball, haven't we? All our institutions have been totally hijacked by left-wing activists. I mean, I don't know how much time you got, Mike, but on this call, I was on a briefing call from the council, which were telling us about this migrant hotel.
Yeah.
Not a migrant hotel, but this hotel for Afghans, or the Afghan resettlement programme. On that call, one of the officers said, just to show you the level of left-wing infiltration into our groups, said, we don't want this information getting out into the wrong hands to far-right groups. She said something like, Reform Bracknell have already been all over this. And I just thought, hold up, we've got an unelected, politically neutral officer linking the biggest polling political party to far-right groups. Now, this is, I believe, why, remember I said evidence has been withheld from me. I've never been allowed to review this Teams meeting call, okay? And I believe it's because of this, because of what the officer said. They know it will be so outrageous. So I can't quote her verbatim because it was a year ago, but it was definitely something like that. And that just shows, like, if she feels confident enough to say that on a recorded video call, what is going on behind closed doors in our institutions?
Absolutely, no question. Listen, great to see you, John. Well, good luck with it. When is it all kind of happening?
Well, probably the hearing's probably in the summer. So yeah, if you want to hear more, John_Edwards UK, it will tell you what it is.
Okay, John_Edwards UK on X, and we'll keep an eye on it as well. And like I say, keep in touch. Anything we can do, we'd be more than happy to do.
Thank you.
Well, we've come to the end of another show, Charlotte. Hey. Have we not? Another flawless performance by you. Shall we? Have we got a Pooch's Pooch?
We have got a Pooch's
We have.
Let me find
Should we
it.
do one? Just before we disappear. But thank you to everybody who was here. Kelvin McKenzie, of course. Stephen Barrett this morning. Colin Brazier, who's got his own show now coming up on Outpost. David Maddox. John Curtin from Camp Beagle, doing some great work. Adam Cherry, who was, of course, from Guido Fawkes. Noel Wilcox and John Edwards there just telling us about his plight with Bracknell Council. Absolutely shocking state of affairs. Shall we do it?
You're not going to like this Pooch's Pooch.
Why not?
It's a bit...
Here we go. Ooh! Oh, God. What the hell is that? That doesn't even look like a dog.
Oh, no, they all like it.
Oi!
There's something to choose about.
That is not good. It's not doing anything either. It's just looking weird. That's weird. Yeah. That's a very strange looking dog. I don't think you wouldn't warm to that really, would you? I think I'll stick to the Labrador. Anyway, listen, great to see you all. Thank you very much indeed. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m, bright and early, Thursday. And tomorrow we've got something new for you. We're going to be doing Plonk of the Week inside the show, rather than doing it as a separate entity, right? We're going to give that a go. We do like a bit of a challenge. Nigel Evans is going to be joining us for that. And I don't know who's on the papers, but it'll be somebody brilliant, no doubt.
William Yarwood.
Oh, it's William Yarwood, the man himself from the Taxpayers Alliance. We'll see you then. This has been the Mike Graham Show. Have a lovely Wednesday.